We are starting. I'm just putting it live on our YouTube.
Okay.
So now it is live on our YouTube and we are good to go. Just give me a minute. We are starting. I'm just putting it live. Very good afternoon to all of you and welcome to our live discussion on Union Budget 2023. I am CA Gaurav Garg, Chairman, Foundation of Tax and Accounting Professionals. And along with me, I have one of the founding members of FTAP and ex-chairman of FTAP, Shri Deepak Bolusriya ji. Along with me, I have, along with Deepak ji, we have Advocate Jaspal Singh Sethi ji, who would be accompanying us in decoding the provision relating to direct tax, the proposals relating to direct tax. We have C. Ajay Goyal ji. Ajay ji has assisted us in making this event more successful by sharing the connect, and Ajay ji was the past convener of NorthX CP Study Circle. A very warm welcome to Shri Priya Bhansali ji.
Sorry, it's North Campus Studies.
North Campus Study Circle. Very warm welcome to Priya ma'am, Priya Bhansali ji from Coimbatore. She has served the institute as a regional council member and a central council member of Southern India Regional Council. So initially we thought we would be starting with the discussion relating to GST, but the speakers, the members who are supposed to speak on GST, I think currently they are not here and they would be joining in next 10 or 15 minutes. In the meantime, what we can do, we can take, we have a lot of attendees who has joined us. If you have something to share, please raise your hand and we would be happy to add you in the panelist section. And then we can, take your view and then formally, we can start the discussion on clause by clause basis. Or Deepak bhai, should we start the discussion with the income tax? Few of the provisions.
We can start. Already 9 minutes have passed, Gaurav. We can start.
Okay. So let me start with, with Deepak ji only. Deepak Bolusriya ji. Budget has done a lot of changes and we are hearing a lot about the change in the personal income tax at the personal level. So what is your take on, that new regime vis-a-vis old regime? And what are the changes, if you can enlighten us with those changes? Over to you, Deepak bhai.
Thank you, Gaurav. And I would like to welcome all of my co-speakers for the day. Gaurav bhai, Jaspal Singh Sethi ji, Ajay ji, Priya ma'am. And in few minutes, Gaurav Gupta will also be joining us. And I would like to also welcome all of our participants in this budget discussion. So now the topic which Gaurav has initially assigned to me is on the personal taxation. And Gaurav, my first reaction as far as new scheme is concerned, that are they really trying to push out saving habits of Indians? The very first question is, are they really trying to push out saving habits of Indians? You see, millennial kids, I will say, why I'm using the word millennial kids, generally those kids who have born on or after 2000 are generally called as millennial kids, right? I have seen, in fact, I have personally seen that the saving habits of these kids are on a downfall, right? हमारे टाइम में ऐसा होता था कि पेरेंट्स पुश करते थे, नहीं भैया अगर 100 रुपए कमा रहे हो तो कम से कम पहले आप 40 रुपए 50 रुपए बचाएं, then you decide how much you would like to spend. Now situation is altogether different. We first see the new kids are first seeing that how much to spend, and if something is saved left, only that amount is saved. You see, indirectly ATC section 80C, it was actually promoting savings, right? Insurance, even though if we talk about insurance in India, term insurance is hardly 1 or 2%, maybe 2 or 2.5% only. So 98% of the insurance today, insurance products which are being sold today are actually investment products, right? You actually invest in the insurance on the pretext of saving only, rather than as an insurance product. So by pushing new scheme, by not giving any kind of incentive for insurances, and even we will talk about Section 1010D also. I believe indirectly they are trying to push out saving habits of Indians. And we Indians actually are known for savings, my dear friends, Gaurav. एक कहा जाता है कि अमीर इससे नहीं कहलाता कि उसके पास बंगला गाड़ी कितना बड़ा है। अमीर इससे इसलिए कहलाया जाता है कि उसके पास अपने अंदर घर में खाते में सोना कितना उसके पास, या उसने पैसा कितना बचा के रखा हुआ है। सो और यही जो सेविंग है ये काम आती है आपके फ्यूचर के अंदर। So I believe even though scheme is good, they are actually trying to push out a lot of exemptions. But I believe somehow they are also trying to push out saving habits. If you don't want to give exemptions for HRA, I can understand. If you don't want to give exemptions for LT, I understand. But at least some social security measures must be there, and they should form part of taxation only. If so is not the case, then why have we introduced Section 43B? Why are trying to control the businesses to Section 43B? Why are you trying to control the social security to Section 43B? Read with Section 36, read with Section 224, EPF and ESI. So if the purpose is only about tax, then 43B should not have been brought in, the new MSME we are talking about. You should push out EPF and ESI disallowances. Again, ESI and EPF disallowances is a big pain in the ass as far as businesses is concerned. And again, on top of that, if you look at GST, you say if you don't pay the amount to your vendor within 180 days, maybe I have certain agreement with my vendor that where I can pay even beyond 180 days. Then why are you trying to control my business the way you want to? So my take on the entire budget as far as individual taxation is concerned, that there must be some kind of provisions for social security measures also, which I believe is missing in the new scheme. And I believe that is why this new scheme was never successful in the first place itself, right? Even you see, we call it as a new scheme. It was not at all what you call beneficial. It is only as if you don't invest and if you have very limited income, that you could opt for the new scheme. And only time will tell, even though it has become a default scheme, only time will tell how much people are going to ultimately go for the new scheme. Or maybe we may see a plethora of filings as far as old regime is concerned. Obviously, unless and until you are aware that you have to file your form to opt for the old scheme within the time, we may see certain heartburns also. So this is my take on the entire budget.
Thank you, Deepak ji. We have the polls in front, for the participants who have joined us, and believe me, they are all learned participants. They are all chartered accountants, not the common public. So what is the view, you have, whether you will choose for old regime or new regime? You can poll. Till now, 85% of the participants have polled in favor of old regime and not in favor of the new regime. Jaspal bhai, over to you.
I can only add one thing, Gaurav, here. As Jaspal was saying that it is a technical budget. So my take on this is that it is only going to increase the workload of chartered accountants and advocates.
Jaspal bhai, what is your take on old regime vis-a-vis new regime?
Gaurav bhai, very validly introduced by Deepak bhai, that the saving habits of Indians are being cut off. I have been advocating this and I have been very loud about this on many forums. And I have been publicly saying this, that old scheme was definitely more beneficial. So देखिए, India has survived a lot. All the past, you can say, जितनी भी worldwide cuts आए हैं, COVID देखा है India ने. The world has not passed, but India has passed these stringent tests. So it is only because of the savings. India के अंदर हर घर के अंदर savings is the key. And as Deepak bhai had said, कि पहले what used to happen is कि every person had a habit of कि 50% I have to save, and then I will be spending what is left out of my savings. Now the things are already going in the reverse direction, that I'll be spending first and I'll be saving it with whatever is left with me. Rehti Bachti ka sir, what the government is now promoting, that they themselves are saying that you don't invest and rather save your taxes and increase your cash flow. So I guess this is not a very welcome, on a personal note, I don't think this is a very welcome step. India should remain with the age-old savings habits, and the old scheme, if you really get into this, old scheme is really better and beneficial financially also. If you look at the long-term cash flows also, old scheme is definitely better.
I believe only 80C and 80D must be made part of the new scheme. Rest they can leave. At least 80C and 80D must be part of the new scheme.
I am completely in agreement with you, Gaurav. Deepak ji.
Thank you. I think thanks for the initial comment. We can have Deepak bhai, your now, what is there in the knee regime, what benefit would be there, what benefit would not be there. If you can have a quick discussion on that.
Okay.
Over to you.
Gaurav, I have made a small presentation on individual taxation.
And if I talk about the voting, the polls, 87% of the audience participants, they have voted in favor of old regime. So we have received 53 votes, out of which 87% of the participants are saying that they will go for a old regime.
And if chartered accountants are saying that they are going with the old scheme, so I believe their workload is going to increase tremendously, because only they are the one who have to push their clients to go for the old scheme only.
And Deepak bhai, when chartered accountants are saying they will go for an old regime, I think it matters a lot. It
Yes,
reflects the voice of the country.
Yes, it does.
Correct. And a very warm welcome to our Gaurav Gupta ji, Advocate Gaurav Gupta ji. Gaurav bhai, very warm welcome from Team FTAP. We have started the discussion.
Gaurav, you are on mute. Yeah.
Let me not interrupt. I would request that we please continue. Thank you. And it is always a pleasure to be on any platform of FTAP, specifically when Gaurav Garg ji is in charge. The things are, to the point and of much interest to everyone. So please, I'm there.
Thank you. Deepak bhai, over to you. You may please share your screen if you want.
I think you have disabled screen. Can you enable it, please?
Now you can do it.
Okay. So Gaurav, I have made a small presentation on the two parts. One is the individual taxation and another one on MSME. I will take up the MSME whenever the times come. In the meantime, let me start on the individual taxation part. So this is the taxation regime as far as old scheme is concerned. There is no change as such. The only change is that it is not a default scheme now. The new scheme has become a new default scheme. And in order to opt this new old scheme, you have to file, if you are a businessman and your ITR includes income from business or profession or under the head BGBP, right? So in order to opt for this old scheme, you have to file a form, and that form again needs to be filed on or before the due date. So if let's say your due date is 31st of July, right? Then that form must be filed by 31st of July 2000 and whatever is the due date for that particular financial year. So that must be filed before that. Otherwise, you will lose the benefit of old scheme. As far as non-businessmen are concerned, or the assessees who doesn't have any income from business, in that case, they doesn't need to file any form. The income tax return itself becomes the form. And again, that return needs to be filed before the due date. Otherwise, automatically, you are part of the new scheme only. And again, like the earlier regime, if you would like to opt out of old scheme, you again need to file a separate form. And once you are out of the old scheme, you cannot go back to the old scheme. Earlier, once you had opted for new scheme and you had opted out of new scheme, you can't go back to the new scheme. So similar law will apply now to the old scheme. So it is very crucial for all the chartered accountants, wherever their clients are going to opt for the old scheme, that they must file this form within that time. And again, filing of this form is a one-time activity. Once you have filed the form, and then the old scheme will keep on continuing for further an assessment years, unless and until you opt out of it. Now, coming to the new scheme. Under the old slab system of new scheme, there were 7 slabs. Now they have reduced the 7 slabs to 6 slabs. So slabs are like this. For first 3 lakh, no taxation. So as compared to the old scheme, there is a 50,000 gap. Then from 3 lakh to 6 lakh, it's 5%, then 10% in the iteration of 3 lakh each, 10%, 15%, 25%, and finally, for more than 15 lakh, it's 30% only. Again, another change they have introduced only again for a new scheme only. And that is, if case your total income is more than 5 crore of rupee. So instead of 37% surcharge, which is still applicable for the old scheme, the rate of surcharge shall be 25% only. Now, one more thing. Earlier, this new scheme was applicable only to individuals and HUFs. Now, not only individual and HUF, even AOP and BOIs, though firms are out of the scene, my dear friends, but AOP and BOIs can also opt for, I mean, by default, even though by default it is applicable to them also, but if they want to opt out of it, they can also do it. Now, I have compared certain benefits which are available in the new scheme and which may not be available in the new scheme vis-a-vis the old scheme. So, starting in the standard deduction on salary. Till last year, under the new scheme, standard deduction was not available. Yeah, that is the amount of 50,000 rupees. So now they have introduced standard deduction under the new scheme also, right? Similarly, family pension, it is available under the new scheme. Entertainment and professional tax, section 16. Section 16 subclause 2 and subclause 3, if I'm not wrong. So earlier also it was not available, still it is not available. HRA, LTA, and certain other allowances, if I'm not wrong, subclause 5, 12, 13, 32, and something like that. So these certain allowances are still not allowed under the new scheme. Minor income exemption of 1,500 rupees. Again, it is not available under new scheme, even though it is still available under the old scheme. Normal depreciation, yes, it is available, but additional depreciation, it is not available under the new scheme. ATC, ATD, ATG, these are the most commonly used chapter 6 deductions. These are not at all available. These are not at all available under the new scheme. Though ATCCD to subsection 2, ATCCD subsection 2, which is an NPS through your employer, it is still available. And this year they have also introduced a section ATCCH, which is for Agniveers, whereby it is on same level as ATCCD2 is concerned, where central government as well as Agniveer will contribute some amount to a Nidhi Seva, which ultimately will get back to Agniveer after the completion of their term with the government. So again, this deduction shall be available under the new scheme as well. And again, ATJJAA. Section 24. Now, if you have a house property where you have paid certain interest towards your loan, and it's a self-occupied property. Now, even 2 self-occupied properties are allowed today. So if there is one self-occupied property, or maybe 2 self-occupied properties are there, any interest paid towards borrowing on loan, it is not at all allowed under the new scheme. But if those properties are either on let out, or let's say you have 3 properties and third one is a deemed let out property, then any interest paid on that property can be claimed as a deduction under the new scheme only, not under the, and under the new scheme also. Again, set of losses, it is available both for old scheme and new scheme. And I hope this comparison may help you in deciding which scheme you would like to go for it. Now, a very interesting aspect of this new scheme is that, Gaurav, that if you are a non-business assessee, then you may opt for old scheme or new scheme on the year-to-year basis, right? On the year-to-year basis. But if you are a business assessee, or if you are a person who has an income from business, then it's a one-way route only. Then it's a one-way route only. Now again, they have changed the rebate. If you are opting for new scheme, then there is no tax to be payable if your total income is up to 7 lakh of rupee. But if let's say your income, total income is 7 lakh 10 rupee, then there is no rebate at all. Then there is no rebate at all. But as far as old scheme is concerned, it is still 5 lakh. It is still 5 lakh. Manoj Mittal ji has raised one question. Interest in self-occupied property up to rupees 2 lakh only, single self-occupied property is allowed or not under the new scheme? No, sir, it is not allowed. If you read section 115 BAC, not only the old one, even the new one, the proposed one. Let me read it out for you, sir. Give me 2 minutes. There are so many sections under 115 that. Okay. Okay. Subsection 2 of section 115 BAC, which is the current provision I am reading. If you read the new provision, it is on the similar lines. For the purpose of subsection 1, the total income of the individual or HUF shall be computed. Now, again, and the new provision, not only HUF, other entities are also covered. Without any exemption or deduction under the provision of so and so and so. And then it says, or clause B of section 24, clause B of section 24, bracket, in respect of property referred to in subsection 2 of section 23. Now, if you refer to section 23, subsection 2, clause B, it only talks about the self-occupied property. So, if you have a self-occupied property and you are paying any interest, because section 24 is talking about the interest. Section 4, clause B is talking about the interest. You see, if you go to section 24, it also talks about standard deduction. So, standard deduction is still available. But as far as interest is concerned, and that interest is in relation to self-occupied property, that interest is not allowable. That interest is not allowable under the new regime. Now, again, another blow. The logic the given by government for this removal of exemption is that a lot of people were misusing this provision of saving. You see, if let's say if I'm earning 10 crore rupee an year, you can't expect me to save only 50,000 rupee or 50 lakh of rupee. I will also save according to my income, right? Isn't it? Is it possible that I am earning only 1 crore and I am investing 2 crore? It's not possible. You see, saving also increases or decreases with the level of your income. Then how can you say it's a abuse provision? Even last year they had curtailed EPF investment. Again, it was a very good social norm that was also curtailed. Now this year they have curtailed this provision. Already ULIP part has been curtailed. On the similar line, now they have curtailed any insurance product which is an investment product. Basically, we can talk about your money back policies, your endowment policies, where if you survive, you get some amount from the insurance company. Even, you see, like initially I told you guys that in India, term insurance is not a popular option. Hardly 2 or 2.5% of the entire insurance industry, life insurance industry, is based on term assurance. still the endowment policy or the whole life policy or the money back policies are the most common a form of insurance in India. Maybe partially because agents also push these kind of policy, because in term insurance they get a lower rate of commission. But in any case, even to promote term insurance, what these companies are doing is that they also refund the entire amount of premium if, let's say, you survive the term of the policy. So rather than pure term, they have again modified it in a certain way. So if you are dead, you will get the sum assured. If you are not dead and you survive that policy term, you will get your premium back. So even if that kind of policy is there where you get the premium back, that is covered by section 1010D, that is an exempt amount, right? So here what they are trying to say is that generally, if you get any sum out of your insurance policy, whether it's a money back or whether it's an endowment amount, it is an exempt amount, right? It is an exempt amount. But after 31st of March 2023, any such policy, when I'm talking about any such policy, it doesn't include policies where premium amount is already more than 10% of the sum assured. That is already out of the purview of section 1010D, and they are also out of the purview of section 80C as well. So there is a policy, let's say you have a sum assured of 1 crore of rupee, and the premium, assuming the premium is, let's say, only 2 lakh of rupee, right? So it is less than 10% of the sum assured. And you survive the policy period and you get that sum of 1 crore. Not 1 crore, whatever is the surrender value or whatever is the amount which is part of that policy. That policy is exempt only and only if the premium paid against such policy is less than 5 lakh of rupee. यानी कि आपको exemption तभी मिलेगी जब उस पॉलिसी का जो प्रीमियम है, एनुअल प्रीमियम है, किसी भी एक साल के अंदर, ऐसा हो सकता है कुछ पॉलिसीज ऐसी भी होती हैं कि शुरू में आपने प्रीमियम ज्यादा दिया, बाद में प्रीमियम आपका कम हो गया, या आपने प्रीमियम को ऊपर नीचे कराया, बट अगर किसी भी एक साल के अंदर उस पॉलिसी का प्रीमियम 5 लाख से ज्यादा है, then you will not get any exemption. Even though, my dear friends, 5 lakh is a huge amount, but अगर 5 लाख टर्म इंश्योरेंस के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से देखेंगे तो आपको लग सकता है कि यार बड़ा नहीं है, बड़ा है अमाउंट, बट अगर मैं इंडोमेंट के पर्सपेक्टिव से देखूं, 5 लाख कुछ भी नहीं है. आज मेरी 47 की एज है और आज मैं इंडोमेंट लेने जाता हूं तो 5 लाख रुपए की पॉलिसी पे मुझे कितनी अमाउंट का इंश्योरेंस मिलेगा? हार्डली 3-4 करोड़ रुपए का, नॉट मोर देन दैट, नॉट मोर देन दैट. शायद वो भी ना मिले मुझे. डज इट 4 करोड़ के आज की डेट में ज्यादा अमाउंट है? नॉट एट ऑल. तो 5 लाख का क्या क्राइटेरिया है, कैसे वो अराइव हुआ, आई रियली डोंट नो. बट द थिंग इज, इफ यू आर गेटिंग एनी सम, provided the policy must have been issued on or after 31st of March 2023. और आप भी स्मार्ट है, आपने कहा अच्छा भाई 5 लाख है, अच्छा मैं काम करता हूं 2 लाख की एक पॉलिसी ले लेता हूं, 2 लाख की एक ले लेता हूं, 2 लाख की एक ले लेता हूं. तो गवर्नमेंट भी स्मार्ट है, उन्होंने कहा कोई बात नहीं. उन्होंने कहा एक पॉलिसी 2 लाख की नहीं है, कोई बात नहीं, अगर ऐसी पॉलिसी को कंबाइन करें और उनका कंबाइंड अमाउंट अगर आपका 5 लाख से ऊपर है तो भी फिर वो एग्जम्पशन में नहीं आएगा. और इसके लिए ऑलरेडी एक सर्कुलर आया था 2/2022 जो कि यूलिप से रिलेटेड है. जैसे मैंने थोड़ी देर पहले बताया कि यूलिप का भी सेम हशर हुआ 2 साल पहले. ऑन द सिमिलर लाइन दे हैव इंट्रोड्यूस्ड दिस प्रोविजन. सो इन ऑर्डर टू अंडरस्टैंड कि ये काम कैसे करेगा, वी नीड टू रीड दैट circular. Even though from that circular I have present before you, I'm presenting before you certain excepts. So situations क्या क्या बताई गई हैं. पहला, sum received during the current previous year under one eligible policy, यानी कि ऐसी पॉलिसी जिसका जो आपने 1/4/2024 या उसके बाद 1/4/2023 या उसके बाद अगर आपने कराई है और उसका प्रीमियम किसी भी एक साल के अंदर 5 लाख से नीचे है, तो जो अमाउंट मिलेगा आपको वो एग्जम्प्ट होगा. अगर 5 लाख से ऊपर है किसी भी एक साल में तो टैक्स रहेगा. अगर आपने मल्टीपल पॉलिसीज ली हैं, अच्छा इंटरेस्टिंगली दिस टेस्ट हैज टू बी अप्लाइड इन द ईयर व्हेन यू आर एक्चुअली रिसीविंग द अमाउंट, राइट. तो उस साल में आपको वो टेस्ट लगाना है। तो अगर आपने देखा भैया इस साल लेट से मेरे पास 60 लाख रुपए आया 2 पॉलिसी से, एक पॉलिसी मेरी 2 लाख रुपए की थी और एक पॉलिसी मेरी 4 लाख रुपए की थी, राइट। तो आपने दोनों को कंबाइन करके चेक करना है कि क्या वो 5 लाख से नीचे है या 5 लाख से ज्यादा है। 5 लाख से नीचे है तो एग्जम्प्ट है, 5 लाख से ज्यादा है तो उसमें भी काफी सारी सिचुएशंस है जो 11 एग्जांपल्स के थ्रू जो है सर्कुलर नंबर 2/2022 में बताई गई है। जो कि टाइम कम है यहाँ और इश्यूज बहुत सारे हैं, इसलिए मैं उसको ज्यादा डिटेल में नहीं जा सकता आज की डेट में, but I will request all the chartered accountants to go through this. With this, I and this particular part.
Deepak bhai, let's first discuss that personal taxation, and then later on we will come to 43B.
नहीं. But I'm trying to say, Gaurav, मैं इसको यहाँ रोक रहा हूँ. You interrupted me. मैंने यही बोला कि मैंने पहला पार्ट कंप्लीट कर दिया. We will resume it later on.
Correct. So thank you, Deepak bhai, for your discussion on personal taxation. We have a question coming up on the YouTube.
In the meantime, Gaurav, एक सवाल आया हुआ है. Let me.
I am also taking the question.
Okay.
The question is from Poonam Mehndi Ratta ji. She is asking, can professionals also shift from year to year basis from old to new or vice versa? I think answer is no. What is your view, Deepak bhai?
Not at all. मैंने बड़ा शुरू में बोल दिया. If you are earning any income under the head PGPP, it is a one way route only. एक बार ओल्ड स्कीम में गए तो आपको हमेशा उसमें रहना है, और एक बार आप बाहर आ गए ओल्ड स्कीम से तो फिर परमानेंटली ही बाहर आ गए. आप ये नहीं कह सकते अच्छा मैं 10 साल तो मैंने ओल्ड स्कीम एंजॉय कर ली, अब 10 साल मैं न्यू स्कीम एंजॉय कर लेती हूँ, 10 साल बाद मैं फिर ओल्ड स्कीम में चले जाऊंगी. मैं नहीं जानता कि 10 साल बाद लॉ क्या होगा, पर आज का लॉ यही है, एक बार आप गए तो गए, वन टाइम एंट्री है और वन टाइम ही एग्जिट है, उसके बाद वो सारे रास्ते बंद हो जाएंगे. बट एज फार एज नॉन सैलरी इज कंसर्न, हाँ इसमें एक इंटरेस्टिंग ट्विस्ट हो सकता है गौरव. मान लीजिए मैंने ईयर 1 में ओल्ड स्कीम ऑप्ट करी और मैं बिजनेस इनकम है मेरे पास या प्रोफेशनल इनकम है मेरे पास, ईयर 2 में भी मेरे पास प्रोफेशनल इनकम है. आप चूंकि आप ओल्ड स्कीम ऑप्ट कर चुके हो तो ओल्ड स्कीम में ही रहोगे. ईयर 3 में आके आपके पास प्रोफेशनल इनकम नहीं है, यानी पीजीपीपी में नहीं है. ईयर 3 में ऑप्शन अवेलेबल है आपके पास, यू कैन स्टिल गो फॉर द न्यू स्कीम. ईयर 4 में वापिस आपके पास बिजनेस इनकम आ गई, यू आर स्टिल विद द ओल्ड स्कीम. सो दिस इज द ब्यूटी ऑफ द लॉ.
मैं यहाँ पे एक चीज ऐड करना चाहूंगा, सॉरी टू.
प्लीज.
सर मेरा ये मानना है कि ये जो ओल्ड स्कीम और न्यू स्कीम है, ये जो इस साल चेंज लाया गया कि बाय डिफॉल्ट यू विल बी इन द न्यू स्कीम एंड यू ऑप्ट फॉर द ओल्ड स्कीम. Probably this is the government's attempt to check whether the new scheme is at all viable or not, or whether they will be continuing with it or not. सर एक चीज हम यहाँ पे और मिस कर रहे हैं, जो एक जनरेशन इन्वेस्टमेंट्स ऑलरेडी अपनी शुरू कर चुकी है, जिसने एक रेकरिंग सेविंग्स का हैबिट डाल ली है, और वो 1.5 लाख रुपए की या 2 लाख रुपए की या एनी अमाउंट मोर देन दैट एक LIC की उन्होंने इन्वेस्टमेंट शुरू कर दी है, which are for a period of say for example 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. They are already investing. So उनके cash flows तो वहां पे already bound हो चुके हैं. Now it will not be very lucrative for me to go into the new scheme and still be paying my savings. This might only attract the very new generation जो आज की डेट में अपनी इनकम शुरू कर रहे हैं और वो शुरू से ही अपनी सेविंग्स की तरफ हैबिट्स ना डालें. So probably this is only and only limited to those section of the new society, and the old generation, the people who have already invested into it once 3 years ago, they will probably not be inclined to this. या फिर जो बिल्कुल ओल्ड जनरेशन है जो 60 प्लस 70 प्लस हो चुके हैं, जो इन्होंने इन्वेस्टमेंट्स बंद कर दिए हैं, they might be opting for going into the new scheme which might be lucrative for them.
यशपाल जी, इसमें मैं एक और चीज ऐड करना चाहूंगा. Let's forget about all the saving habits of the new millennial, right? आज मैंने एक नई नौकरी शुरू करी है, लेट्स से 1 साल 2 साल बाद. अब मुझे घर रहने के लिए छत तो चाहिए सर, राइट? और जनरली लोग जो हैं माइग्रेट काफी कर रहे हैं. दिल्ली में बहुत सारी माइग्रेशन पॉपुलेशन, मैं भी एक माइग्रेटरी बर्ड हूँ. आई डोंट बिलोंग टू दिल्ली, राइट? आई बिलोंग टू पंजाब. और दिल्ली में आज आप अपनी जिंदगी का मोर देन 50% मैं आज दिल्ली में मैं अपना बिता चुका हूँ. अब या तो मैं अपना घर बनाऊंगा या मैं किराए पे लूंगा. अब मैं किराए पे लूंगा तो भी आपने मेरा जो बेनिफिट था वो मेरे से वापस ले लिया। अब अगर मैं अपना घर बना रहा हूं तो मेरा जो वो बेनिफिट था वो भी आपने मेरे से वापस ले लिया। तो मेरे लिए लुक्रेटिव रहा कहां? मेरे लिए लुक्रेटिव रहा कहां? तो मैं फिर वापस ओल्ड स्कीम में जाऊंगा। आई एम नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट इंश्योरेंस, आई एम नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट अदर सेविंग हैबिट्स।
Very valid point, Deepak bhai. I think building a house is very basic need, and you cannot buy a house in a one go. It cannot be like light, switch on off. You need to save money, and people save money for the house property through various instruments. They will deposit with the bank, they will put it in the LIC, they will buy the mutual fund, and that used to give the benefit to them while paying the taxes on the income. I think the basic thread of the economy is the saving, and we are trying to disturb that basic thread. Maybe, as rightly pointed out by Jaspal bhai, that this is the last water test which government is trying to do. Let's say if people still opted for the old regime in comparison to the new regime, then the fate should be clear, and it would be very well written on the wall that nobody wants new regime and don't push it. But that would happen in the next year, and the result would come maybe somewhere September, October of 24. By the time people have opted for the old regime vis-a-vis new regime, and then they have filed the return. So with this, let's move on.
I would like to answer one question of Mr. Nitin Bhutta here.
Please.
नितिन जी ने कहा कि दे डोंट एग्री विद मी, बट सर नितिन जी आपने शायद मेरे आंसर की टेक्निकलिटी को समझा नहीं है. When I say that they don't have any income from PGBP, it doesn't mean इसका मतलब ये है they are totally out of business. Let's say I am into job, I am into business, right? And I can give n number of examples, right? I have started my business, I started my startup. 2 साल मैंने 3 साल मैंने चलाया, ओल्ड स्कीम मैंने ऑप्ट करी, चौथे साल में जाके मेरा हाथ खड़े कर दिया मैंने, मैं नहीं चला पा रहा हूँ, I shut it down. When you say there are expenditure, it means there is still a PGBP head in your income, in your return. When I say it is totally out of picture, इसका मतलब ना तो उसके पास खर्चे हैं, ना उसने लॉस क्लेम किया. Even if let's say I am a partner in a partnership firm, I am earning salary from there, it is still PGBP is there. I am a partner in firm, only an exempt income is there, I still believe there is a PGBP there. So the situation I am talking about, Nitin ji, is where in your income tax return, there is no clause as far as PGBP is concerned. I am talking about that situation. Agar kharche hain, now the way you are talking about, it means aapne profit loss account banaya, you have filed the return with the PGBP only. Income not only include only the revenue part, it also includes the loss part also.
Thank you, Deepak bhai. Can we move on to?
Yes, please.
Can we move on to GST? Because initially we thought we will start with the GST, but the GST team got late. So now we have Devinder Singh with us. Devinder Singh ji, if you can please start your video. Very warm welcome, Devinder bhai, on the platform of FTAP. And let me add Gaurav Gupta ji also. Gaurav bhai, can you please start your video? Gaurav Gupta ji. Okay, so we'll start with Devinder ji. Devinder Singh ji is a chartered accountant and turning into an advocate. Now, Devinder bhai, you are now an advocate, or it will still take some time?
It will take some time. Right now, a lawyer only.
You are a lawyer only. Thank you. So Devinder bhai is a renowned expert on GST and keeps on delivering lectures at various platforms, including at the CBEC level with the officers. Devinder bhai share his wisdom and experience as far as GST is concerned. So before we further move on the direct tax, let me take words of wisdom from Devinder ji. Devinder bhai, what is your perspective on the amendment made with regard to indirect tax, in brief, and then we will move on to the detail. So in brief, what you feel about the amendments made in the indirect tax?
You see, Gaurav, I would like to answer this question from two sides, two perspectives. First, a common man. what I feel, every year Common says that he hasn't got everything from the budget and there was nothing new. He had very high expectation and those expectation didn't get fulfilled. But this time I feel, as far as GST proposal, those changes are concerned, there are 50% changes which are pro-revenue and 50% changes from the side of taxpayer as well. So this is, I would say that this is very welcoming changes that that have taken place this year. Or if I say from a professional point of view, what I feel, what words had anomaly, what words were creating confusion, those words have been removed from the act itself when those once those changes take effect. This is what I feel from professionals point of view. And last but not the least, if I give my view, every year what I feel that GST was introduced with the sole intent, seamless flow of credit. But every year credit, new condition, new restriction, new limitation, new block credit, new entries being entered into that space. So what I feel like, ITC जो गवर्नमेंट हमारे साथ खेल रही है वो एक वीडियो गेम की तरह खेल रही है कि हर साल जो लेवल है those keep on getting tough. But this year no change has taken place as far as section 16 is concerned. But there are two changes, those have been made in the section number 17 subsection 3 and 17 subsection 5. Of course, we shall be discussing those later on as our discussion moves on further. So, Gaurav, should I start clauses?
Yes, Devendra bhai, what are the key amendments according to you? Please feel free to share.
Okay. I will be discussing certain amendments that have taken place. First, I will start with clause 128 of Finance Bill. जो क्लोज 128 128 के अंदर जो चेंज प्रपोज किया गया है वो चेंज प्रपोज किया गया है सेक्शन 10 में. Section 10 pertains to composite dealers. And as we know कि composition dealer scheme, composition scheme वही dealer opt करता है, वही person opt करता है जिसका turnover 1.5 करोड़ से नीचे होता है, assuming we are in दिल्ली. या एक लिमिटेड टर्नओवर होता है जिसका होता है कि मैं ज्यादा GSTR 1 GSTR 3B के चक्रों में ना पड़ूं और सिंपल मेरे से टैक्स कलेक्ट कर लो एक लिमिटेड परसेंटेज, मुझे कोई ITC नहीं चाहिए, कुछ नहीं चाहिए और मेरा एक छोटा सा कारोबार है एंड आई एम हैप्पी इन दैट डूइंग दैट. उसके लिए एक कंडीशन ये भी है क्योंकि यू आर रिस्ट्रिक्टेड टू अ सर्टेन सिटी, सर्टेन प्लेस, you cannot make any interstate supply of goods. This is a condition which has been imposed upon that dealer who chooses to opt composition scheme. And they had one more restriction upon them, that they could not supply goods from a platform which was being managed by electronic commerce operator. There was a restriction कि वो अपने गुड्स को सप्लाई, गुड्स और सर्विसेज दोनों सप्लाई नहीं कर सकते इलेक्ट्रॉनिक कॉमर्स ऑपरेटर के थ्रू. दिस ईयर ये अलाउ कर दिया गया है कि अगर वो गुड्स को चाहे तो इलेक्ट्रॉनिक कॉमर्स ऑपरेटर के थ्रू सप्लाई कर सकता है. सर्विस को वो पहले भी सप्लाई नहीं कर सकता था, आज भी सप्लाई नहीं कर सकता. गुड्स को वो पहले सप्लाई नहीं कर सकता था. अब जब प्रपोजल ये इफेक्टिव आज बन जाएगा, जब फाइनेंस बिल फाइनेंस एक्ट बनेगा और सुटेबल नोटिफिकेशन जारी कर दी जाएगी, तब वो गुड्स को इलेक्ट्रॉनिक कॉमर्स ऑपरेटर के थ्रू सप्लाई कर सकेगा. बट देयर इज अ कैच व्हिच आई वाज ट्राइंग टू अलाइन दैट अर्लियर, दैट स्टिल देयर इज अ कंडीशन दैट ही कैन नॉट मेक इंटरस्टेट सप्लाईज ऑफ गुड्स. So even if he is allowed to supply goods from electronic commerce operator portal, then still he cannot make supplies of goods interstate. Still he will have to remain within that state only. He cannot go beyond that. because only intrastate supplies of goods is allowed to a composite dealer. अब अगर हम सोच के देखें कि जो इलेक्ट्रॉनिक कॉमर्स ऑपरेटर है उसका पर्पस ही वही है कि पूरे इंडिया को एक दूसरे से जोड़े, इनफैक्ट आउटसाइड इंडिया को भी जोड़े, कि कहीं से भी ऑर्डर आए इलेक्ट्रॉनिक कॉमर्स ऑपरेटर उस ऑर्डर को रिसीव करे, कंसर्न सप्लायर को वो ऑर्डर उस रेसिपिएंट की डिटेल भेजे और गुड्स की फ्री मूवमेंट हो। तो एक कंपोजिशन डीलर वाला अगर वो इलेक्ट्रॉनिक कॉमर्स ऑपरेटर पर अगर अपने आप को रजिस्टर्ड करवाता है तो वो कभी कंपोजिशन स्कीम को ऑप्ट करना ही नहीं चाहेगा, क्योंकि वो अपने आप को रिस्ट्रिक्ट नहीं करना चाहेगा कि वो गुड्स को सप्लाई कर सके विद इन अ स्टेट ओनली, इंट्रास्टेट ओनली, एंड whereas interstate supplies of goods is not allowed to him. तो मुझे लगता है कि ये चेंज प्रपोज तो कर दिया गया है, बट प्रैक्टिकली इसका बहुत ज्यादा यूज होने वाला नहीं है, बट स्टिल दिस इज अ वेलकम चेंज बिकॉज अ कंडीशन और अ रिस्ट्रिक्शन that has been withdrawn from the section 10. So now a composite dealer is allowed once budget proposal take place, once finance bill becomes finance act and suitable notification with a given date, it becomes applicable. So this is a positive change which has taken place as far as section 10 of CGST Act is concerned. Now, second thing, Gaurav, you have to say something.
Gaurav Gupta ji, so should we take your comment side by side or once Devinder bhai?
I think Devinder ji should complete first. I will not interrupt. एक स्पीकर जो अपने फ्लो में बोल रहा होता है मेरे को बिल्कुल अच्छा नहीं लगता कि कोई भी इंटरप्ट करे, तो मेरे जैसा तो भूल ही जाता कि बोल क्या रहा है. सो आई वुड रिक्वेस्ट हिम कि वो पहले पूरा करें. मेरे को मतलब इट इज लवली, आई एम लिसनिंग टू हिम, सो देयर आर न्यू पर्सपेक्टिव्स व्हिच आई एम गेनिंग फ्रॉम हिम, सो प्लीज लेट हिम कंप्लीट. I'll add some value to that.
Over to you, Devinder bhai. Thank you, Gaurav bhai.
मेरे लिए तो ये गौरव की बात होगी कि मैं गौरव जी को अभी थोड़ी देर के बाद सुनूंगा, क्योंकि मैंने जितना पढ़ा जितना समझा मुझे उम्मीद है उसके बीच में 99% इजाफा हो जाएगा गौरव गुप्ता जी को सुनने के बाद. बट स्टिल मैं 2 क्लोजेस के बारे में बात और करूंगा एंड आफ्टर दैट आई विल गिव स्टेज टू गौरव गुप्ता जी. अब जैसे कि मैंने बात करी सेक्शन 16 की, जो आईटीसी की कंडीशन रिस्ट्रिक्शन, और जिसके बारे में पहले बोला कि गवर्नमेंट तो चाहती है कि ये हमें वीडियो गेम के लेवल हैं कि हर साल इनके लेवल को टफ करते चले जाओ, बट इस साल सेक्शन 16 में विद द ग्रेस ऑफ गॉड कोई ऐसी कंडीशन रिस्ट्रिक्शन नहीं लाई गई है, सिर्फ कुछ शब्दों को चेंज किया गया. उन शब्दों को मैं आपके साथ डिस्कस करता हूं. देखिए, जब जीएसटी आया था तो जीएसटीआर 1, जीएसटीआर 2, जीएसटीआर 3 दैट वाज द स्कीम, जबकि वो कभी इंप्लीमेंट हुई नहीं. जीएसटीआर 1 और जीएसटीआर 3 भी चलता रहा. 3B ओरिजिनली रिटर्न नहीं था, बाद में इसको रिटर्न मान लिया गया. पर एक शब्द थे जो सेक्शन 16 में दिए गए थे कि अगर रेसिपिएंट सप्लायर को पेमेंट करने में फेल हो जाता है, फेल्स टू पे विद इन अ पीरियड ऑफ 180 डेज फ्रॉम द इश्यू ऑफ इनवॉइस, तो उसको आईटीसी जो उसने क्लेम किया हुआ है वो आईटीसी उसे रिवर्स करना पड़ेगा और वो ऐड कर दिया जाएगा उसकी आउटपुट टैक्स लायबिलिटी में along with interest thereupon. This was written. So जब भी मैंने सेक्शन 16 को पढ़ा तो मुझे लगा ये दो चीजें अलग अलग है. लाइक आईटीसी इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट एंड आउटपुट टैक्स लायबिलिटी इज रिलेटेड टू आउटवर्ड सप्लाईज. So this is like adding two unlike terms. Like we cannot add 2 cows and 2 buffaloes. 2 cows and 2 cows are 4 cows. But 2 cows and 2 buffaloes, those remain 2 cows and 2 buffaloes only. Those cannot be added because those are unlike terms. So how can ITC be added to output tax liability? But this made sense if GSTR 1, GSTR 2 and GSTR 3 would have come into place. अगर वो आते तो ये सेंस बनाता, क्योंकि जीएसटीआर 1 से कहानी जीएसटीआर 2 में पहुंचनी थी और जीएसटीआर 3 में जो हमारा फाइनल टैक्स लायबिलिटी कैलकुलेट होनी थी, जो फाइनल हमारा टैक्स बनना था, तो जो आईटीसी का रिवर्सल है उसको आउटपुट टैक्स लायबिलिटी में ऐड करके एक फाइनल टैक्स अमाउंट टू पे कैलकुलेट कर दिया जाता, वो बता दिया जाता. बट ऐसा कभी हुआ ही नहीं. तो जब कभी हुआ ही नहीं तो इस शब्द का जो कि सेक्शन 16 में लिखे हुए थे कि आईटीसी को रिवर्स करेंगे और उसको ऐड करेंगे आउटपुट टैक्स लायबिलिटी में, तो आउटपुट टैक्स लायबिलिटी शब्दों को हटाने का प्रपोजल आया सेक्शन 16 के अंदर. और ये शब्द लिखे जरूर हुए थे, बट अगर हम और जाएं, अगर पोर्टल और रूल्स पर जाएं, रूल्स में ऐसा कहीं वर्ड नहीं लिखा हुआ आउटपुट टैक्स लायबिलिटी, और ऑफ कोर्स नहीं हो सकता था क्योंकि GSTR 2 GSTR 3 रहे नहीं, तो उन शब्दों को कोई रेलेवेंस नहीं था। और अगर हम अपनी 3B भी देखें, उसके बीच में भी इसको ITC रिवर्सल में ही लिखा जाता है। तो जो पोर्टल भी काम कर रहा था वो सिर्फ ITC रिवर्सल के बारे में बात कर रहा था, दैट रिवर्सल वाज नॉट बीइंग एडेड टू output tax liability. So these words didn't make any sense as far as those were placed in section 16. So those words have been removed, as well as one more thing that has been incorporated in under section 16, that जो ये लिखा हुआ था कि along with interest thereupon, वहां पर और clarify कर दिया गया interest to be calculated as per section 50. This is a change which has been brought under section 16. So this makes more sense to align the act एंड रूल्स एंड पोर्टल। और मजे की बात है कि इसका मतलब जो रूल्स और पोर्टल है, सो इट इज वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग दैट रूल्स एंड पोर्टल दोज वर करेक्ट इन इटसेल्फ, सो नाउ एक्ट हैज बीन अलाइन्ड टू रूल्स एंड पोर्टल। So this is a welcome change, what I feel. And one more change has been brought under section 16 that has been proposed, that is payment made by supplier. Those words have been changed to payment made to supplier. Although I'm not using exact word used in the finance bill, because I'm speaking on the basis of my memory only. So, but I want to say कि payment made by recipient, those words have been changed to payment made to supplier. This is the second change, but still no another condition or another restriction as far as section 16 is concerned. One more clause that I would like to discuss and then hand over the stage to respectable Gaurav ji. That change that I will discuss, that is related to section 17. Section 17, two changes have been proposed. One change has been proposed under section 17 subsection 3, and one change has been proposed under section 17 subsection 5. First, I'm discussing change that has been proposed under section 17 subsection 5. We all know that section 17 subsection 5 pertains to block credit, and one more entry has been proposed to be inserted under section 17 subsection 5. That entry is that if any person who receives goods or services and has ITC over those goods or services, if those goods or services are being used or intended to be used as far as expenditure that he is required to make as far as section 135 of Companies Act, that is corporate social responsibility. So now if one does so, one who is mandatorily required to, one who is obliged to incur expenditure for corporate social responsibility, if he receives any goods or supplies, and if there is any accumulation of ITC, that ITC will not be allowed to be taken by him. That will be covered under section 17 subsection 5. So that will be a block credit. Once this, of course, once this proposal takes place. And last but not the least, 17 subsection 3, there was like whatever common credit, if that pertains to whatever. So if there is any specific credit that is allowed, if there is specific credit related to taxable goods, that is 100% allowed. But if there is some common credit which pertains to both taxable supply as well as exempt supply, so only proportionate was allowed. Whatever percentage pertain to taxable and whatever percentage pertain to exempt supply, that was not allowed. So this is quite logical. So if there is common credit, only that much portion is allowed which pertain to taxable supplies, and that was reversed, or that was not, disallowed under section 17 subsection 3, which pertain to exempt supply. Now one inclusion has been made as far as calculating exempt supply is concerned. That inclusion I will not be discussing in detail. I will leave that wisdom up to Gaurav ji. That bonded warehouse, if someone has imported goods and those goods have been kept in a bonded warehouse, those goods have been kept in bonded warehouse, and before getting those cleared for home consumption, if one supplies those goods to another person, so then a certain portion of that, because rules will come later on, rules will be framed, rules will be prescribed, then a certain portion of that will become or will be treated under exempt supply. So common credit, what was supposed to be distributed in the ratio of taxable supply and exempt supply, so now exempt supply portion will be on bit higher side. So we can say that ITC will be disallowed to certain to more extent. So if we see section 16, thank God there are no new condition or restriction, but 17.3, a little bit more common credit, less to be allowed or more to be disallowed. And section 17 subsection 5, if corporate social responsibility, any goods or services, any ITC pertaining to that, that will be covered under block credit. So ITC pertaining to that will not be allowed. गौरव भाई,
थैंक यू।
मुझे लगता है कि मेरे लिए इतना काफी है, गौरव गुप्ता जी को सुनने में ज्यादा मजा आने वाला है।
हाँ बिल्कुल, we all are waiting to listen Gaurav ji, but thanks to you Devendra ji, to all the participants and friends who have joined. Let me tell you, I called Devendra bhai around 3 o'clock that Abhishek ji would be able to join slightly late. He got stuck in Amritsar. You know, why don't you come and share your words of wisdom? He said for sure he will try, and within a 15 minutes he confirmed he would be there. So thanks Devendra ji for joining at a very short notice and sharing your knowledge. Deepak, now let me go to Deepak. Deepak Bolusaria ji, you have something to say on the GST before we move on to Gaurav Gupta ji, because it is like agar सब्जी में तड़का ना डालो ना तो मजा नहीं आता. So your view on GST is like that तड़का on the
तड़के के घी तो हमारे गौरव गुप्ता भाई हैं. हमारा काम तो केवल जीरे और टमाटर की तरह ही है. तो अगर घी ना हुआ
तो मैं कुछ शुरू करूं,
उसका कैटलिस्ट ना हुआ अगर छोंक का, तो फिर मजा क्या आएगा. एनीवे, एक क्वेश्चन आया हुआ था यहाँ इन द मीन टाइम.
But hats off to Deepak bhai. I was just wondering how he is able to manage the income tax part as well as the indirect part of the budget. After Nirmala Sitharaman ji, he's the only one who has gone through both the parts.
नहीं, अब सीतारमन जी तो मैडम सर कस्टम का भी वो देखती हैं, हम तो वो भी नहीं देखते.
I agree, brother. Hats off to you.
Anyway, एक राजेश कुमार खुराना जी की क्यूरी आई हुई थी that after the amendment of section 10, a composition dealer will be able to make intrastate supply of only goods, but such person will not be able to supply food and beverages from a restaurant because supply of food and beverages is service. Is it true? Yes, it is true. They can't. But at the same time, अगर e-commerce operator 9(5) के अंदर है तो yes, definitely they can supply through them. Please, गौरव जी, अगर आप इसमें कोई ऐड करना चाहें तो.
नहीं दीपक भाई, I frankly saying मेरे को क्वेश्चन दिखा ही नहीं जो आप कह रहे हैं.
वो आंसर्ड के अंदर अगर आप देखेंगे ओपन.
अच्छा, वो आंसर्ड के अंदर है. I think you have already answered. I'll not intervene in that. Let me just take up the topic which has been allotted to me. So with the kind permission of both the chairs, Deepak bhai and Gaurav bhai, if you permit, I'll very quickly.
Over to you, Gaurav bhai.
So
let me briefly introduce. Let me have a opportunity to introduce you, Gaurav bhai. Sorry, I was not able to do it earlier. Gaurav Gupta ji is a very learned person. He is a chartered accountant, come advocate. Now he is practicing in High Court. He has got tremendous experience in indirect tax, and he has worked with the Big Four accounting firm in his initial days. He is a co-founder to STAR, which is a Society for Tax and Research. So now over to you, Gaurav bhai.
Thank you, Gaurav ji. Friends, having heard two learned speakers, the job for the next speaker is always tough because you have to reach that particular mental which has been created by the speakers precedent to you. But Devendra bhai has done quite a justice with the topics in GST. From clause 128, there are 21 amendments which have been brought in. 21 amendment इस बार हमारे पास finance bill के अंदर आई हैं, total CGST और IGST में मिलाकर. अगर हम देखें तो उनमें से बहुत सारी amendments already 48 GST Council में discuss हो चुकी हैं. And for the very simple reason, there cannot be an amendment which can be brought in without the discussion in GST Council. So it is all a fall through of the GST Council discussion which we had last month. और इस बारी वो amendments जो आई हैं वो हम सबको पहले से काफी हद तक पता थी. Still, why we wait for the finance bill is for the exact language. अब exact language जब हमारे सामने आई, there are many surprises to me also which came, and there were some hidden lines also which appeared, and which is going to create some nuisance for many of the taxpayers. Let me start with very simple section 16. Section 16, subsection 2, second proviso. What it says, it was basically the proviso which was dealing with the payment within 180 days to the supplier. And if the payment is not made, then that particular amount was supposed to be added to the output tax of the recipient. Now I am the buyer. अगर आप मेरे supplier हैं, मैंने 180 दिन में payment नहीं करी, तो मेरे output tax में वो amount along with the tax वो वापस जुड़ जाएगा, and I am supposed to pay tax by adding that into my output. That was the provision till now. The government has sort of rectified. Now that is the term which we understand what government says. कि हमने इसे rectify कर दिया, अब हम इसको आपके output tax में नहीं जोड़ेंगे. Now you have to pay this amount along with interest as applicable under section 50. Now sir, what is the difference? पहले आपने कहा कि मैंने output tax में जोड़ दिया है, और अब आपने amendment करके कहा no, pay this amount along with interest payable thereon under section 50. सर, जब तक ये output tax में था, तब तक मेरे लिए इतनी टेंशन नहीं थी. क्यों मैं इसको इलेक्ट्रॉनिक कैश लेजर और इलेक्ट्रॉनिक क्रेडिट लेजर दोनों से पे कर सकता. किस कारण से? मेरा जो सेक्शन 49 सब सेक्शन 4 है, वो मेरे को यूटिलाइजेशन ऑफ आईटीसी के बारे में बताता है कि हाउ कैन आई यूज माय बैलेंसेस इन इलेक्ट्रॉनिक क्रेडिट लेजर. जो इलेक्ट्रॉनिक क्रेडिट लेजर का यूज है, दैट इज प्रोवाइडेड इन 49.4 which says the amount which is available in the electronic credit ledger may be used for making any payment towards output tax under this act or IGST in the manner or the subject to the condition or within such time as may be prescribed. Now sir, this particular condition was talking about the payment of output tax. Till the point 16.2 second proviso amount was being added to me, the recipient, as the output tax. I can use both my cash ledger and credit ledger for payment of this amount. The moment it is taken out as output tax, this particular amount does not remain an output tax, and therefore I cannot use the electronic credit ledger. There may be disputes. So I'm just keeping and parking a thought with all my listeners. The disputes are to begin कि साहब ये आपका output tax नहीं है और ये reversal of ITC भी नहीं है. Please note, this is not reversal of ITC. It is an obligation casted on the recipient to pay in occurrence of a particular event. So it is not a reversal. So suppose I took a credit, I reverse that particular credit. मैंने motor vehicle का credit लिया, मैंने reverse कर दिया. That is a reversal of credit, meaning thereby where I am taking a position that I am wanting not to take the credit. And therefore there are plethora of judgments which say you can reverse your credit because you don't want to take that particular credit, and it will be deemed as if you have never taken that particular credit. I hope my listeners are with me. अगर ये मेरे output tax में नहीं आता, तो फिर ये amount ना तो मेरा reversal है, ना मेरा output tax है. It is an obligation to pay which has been casted by the law on me, read with rule 37. In that particular proposition, the challenge may come that this is not an output tax, and therefore because of 49.4, this cannot be paid using my electronic credit ledger. I hope I am making my point very clear, where many of our friends, many of our I would say the business trade, they will be facing this particular heat. Parallelly, if you look from 1st of October 2022, Rule 37 has been amended. Till 1st of October 2022, the reference was you can use, you have to use GSTR 2 for the payment or reversal of this particular amount under 16.2 second proviso. Now, this particular thing has been amended, and the rule has been amended to provide that you have to pay this particular amount along with interest in the form GSTR 3B. So this amendment is also not to the rescue of the taxpayer for the very simple reason 49.4 remains unamended. So keep this particular one point in mind. This has to be represented to the government कि आपने एक amendment तो कर दी है और आप दूसरी amendment करना भूल गए हैं, तो हो सकता है कई cases के अंदर ये problem हम सबके सामने आए. Coming forward, 17 subsection 3, which talks about the reversal in terms of common credit, which is attributable to both taxable as well as exempt supplies. Exempt supplies includes non-taxable supplies also. In this particular case, earlier there was no relief except when the value of land and building was to be excluded from the value of exempt supply to compute that particular reversal. To expand, now this particular proposition has been expanded. Along with the value of land and building, the value of the supply of the warehouse goods as provided in clause 8A of the schedule 3, that is the new addition which has been provided, that will also get excluded. Now, my dear friend, 8A talks about supply of warehouse goods to any person before clearance for home consumption. But there was another entry which was supply of the goods by the consignee to any other person by endorsement, which is IC sale. Now, I was not able to appreciate this particular exclusion. आपने warehouse goods को तो बाहर कर दिया, but आपने high C को reversal के बाहर अभी नहीं किया. So in that particular case, section 17 subsection 3, I think to this particular extent still needs to be amended. This value of exempt supply, in my humble opinion, should exclude all the entries which are there in schedule 3. I think this particular representation will be on for some time, and then the government might do it over the period of time. But till that particular point of time, be very, very careful that you will not get a recuse, you will not get a rescue from the exclusion till this happens. ये सर्विस टैक्स के दिनों में भी प्रॉब्लम थी और ये आज भी प्रॉब्लम है. आपको बहुत स्पेसिफिकली देखना है, एग्जेम्प्ट सप्लाई के अंदर अगर कोई एक्सक्लूजन शेड्यूल 3 का नहीं है, that cannot be taken out just because it is a non-taxable supply. The question is, the larger question is, if something is there in schedule 3, it is neither the supply of goods nor supply of services. So by that virtue, can I not say that this is not an exempt supply because it is not a supply? I leave that question open. When there is a specific exclusion, litigation can only be avoided if that particular specific exclusion is taken. But if you're taking any other proposition, it is a very litigative kind of a situation. Section 17 subsection 5, एक addition करी गई CSR activity. Now, that particular exclusion is also very, very specific. Why it is very specific? Because it is saying goods or services are both received by a taxable person which are used or intended to be used for activities relating to his obligation under CSR referred to in 135 of the Company Act. Now question came, sir, I am under an obligation in CSR. Do I need to reverse? No, my dear friend, after this particular amendment, the answer will be no. Earlier, why it was yes? Because the duty was casted under the law to undertake that particular activity. Even though that is in relation to your business, it is only in relation to your business because of 135 of the Companies Act. Now the question is, if there is a 135 CSR, section 135 CSR, uska credit mujhe nahi mile. But what about the CSR which I am doing beyond 135? I hope my question is very clear. Voluntary CSR, I am doing good for the society. Now there are two things which happen. Number one, if I am doing a CSR which is a voluntary CSR and I call it a CSR, it may be looked upon, frowned upon by the authorities, saying कि अगर आपका mandatory allow नहीं हो रहा, तो voluntary कैसे allow? But I now just change the entire nomenclature. I put it before you. कि सर मैंने तो sponsorship दी थी. Now that sponsorship can be for an event कि गरीब बच्चों के competition के लिए या गरीब बच्चों को मैंने sponsor किया for their studies. You call it a CSR, you call it a sponsorship. The moment you call it a sponsorship, it is a allowable expenditure. Because that sponsorship somewhere include the recognition which your business is getting, which is leading to a sort of a sustainable growth, sustainable, I would say, recognition to your business. So in these particular scenario, the nomenclature, the moment is shifted from CSR to sponsorship, the expense becomes allowable. I think the government need to think a little bit, otherwise the businessman, the more you make it stringent, the more is the issues, the more is the problems which are created, because it opens up a sort of a thought process whereby by merely changing the nomenclatures, the businessman can avail that particular ITC. तो जहां पर एक proposition open है और एक proposition closed है और केवल nomenclature का फर्क है, I think the law should be lenient enough to keep that open so that there are no evasions and no litigations to that particular count. As Devender ji has very rightly said in the beginning, seamless credit and open credit was the theme for GST. अगर आपने credit ही निकाल दिया seamless, then you have taken out the soul. You have taken out the very vested power from GST. अगर वो ही निकल गया तो फिर GST will become a first point tax. It no longer remains a value added tax. So somewhere I think we need to rethink on that particular proposition. Now, speaking on clauses 132 to 138, rather 135, the government has put a barrier. You cannot file your return, be it GST or 1, which is a statement, not a return, which is a detail of outward supply under section 37, under section 39, return, which is your 3B. For that matter, under section 130, under section 44, your GSTR 9 annual return. And for that matter, the OIDR return, rather statement of supplies under section 52. 3 years from the due date of filing, you cannot file this particular statements or return. Those barriers have been put in place. I don't see a detriment to that because, you know, people often tend to not file and then regularize out of blue. I think this is a very good step taken by the government to block. But the only problem is, what about those particular businesses whose numbers have been cancelled or suspended, who are right now into litigations, and the moment they will get regularized, it may take years because tribunal is not in place. So I was hoping some sort of exclusion for those particular entities should have been brought into place. Government has kept the power that it can come out for a specific category or class of taxpayers, a relaxation that they can file after 3 years. So हो सकता है उस particular proviso को use करके जो ये suspensions or cancellations which are under litigation, those particular taxpayers might see a relief in the coming time. 54 की amendment is a clarificatory amendment. Provisional ITC का concept after the introduction of 16(2)AA has been done away with. You can't take a provisional credit now. Whatever is appearing in 2B, subject to 17(3), 17(5), for that matter 16(2). Only that particular credit you can take. उसके अलावा आप नहीं ले सकते, तो provisional credit का जो है वो concept ही खत्म हो गया है. I think some changes in the penalties for e-commerce operator 122, I'll not take that because it's addressing a very specific set of people. One amendment, which is again of general interest, let me come to that particular thing. IGST, the definition of non-taxable on recipient has been amended. Earlier, this particular definition had the reference. इसमें जो reference था वो था अगर आप इसको अपने business use के लिए नहीं ले रहे हैं तो. अब वो reference जो है वो delete कर दिया गया है. उसका simple reason क्या है? A unregistered business entity might also be using OIDR services. So OIDR supplier who is outside India may not be able to make out a difference between a unregistered business entity and a person who is not using that particular supply for his business purpose. So in those particular two categories, the confusion was there, and to iron that out, that definition has been amended. Last but not the least, when OIDR services, the phrase essentially automated and involving minimal human intervention has been deleted. Again, this particular deletion, in my humble opinion, will not make any sort of a change in OIDR, but yes, it is basically opening up a Pandora boxes, because anything which is through the computer network, digital network, officers will be very, very keen to sort of put that into OIDR. OIDR is more damaging for the suppliers who are located outside India. So once they are within India, this particular nuance will also go out. So it will be sort of a force put for those particular category of people to get themselves registered in India. And the scope of recipients in India, as per the definition as read with the place of supply rules, the scope of imposing tax is very, very wide in OIDR. So usko dekhte hue, I think this particular thing is gonna help. Last but not the least, section 12 subsection 8, which deals with the transportation of goods. वहां पर ये कहा गया था कि if the both the recipient and the supplier are in India, but the destination of the goods is outside India, the place of supply will not be the location of the registered person. Now till 30th of September 2022, आप चाहे vessel से भेज रहे हैं, चाहे आप air से भेज रहे हैं, if you're sending the goods to outside India, the transportation services were exempt. However, with effect from 1st October 2022, the transportation services has been made taxable. So there was a question that whether the recipient will be able to avail the credit. The answer came, yes, the recipient will be able to avail the credit if IGST has been charged. But the problem remained for those particular category of persons where you, who is the supplier of transportation services, and the recipient, who is the exporter, both are in same state. Then also the supplier cannot charge CNS in 12 subsection 8, transportation of goods to a place outside India, including by mail or courier. उस केस में फिर क्या था? उस केस में जो रजिस्टर्ड पर्सन था उसको क्रेडिट नहीं मिल रहा था क्योंकि IGST चार्ज हो रहा. Then to remove this particular anomaly, the government came out with the amendment कि आप इस प्रोवाइजो को ही हटा दीजिए क्योंकि ये सर्विसेज taxable हो गई हैं. This particular gentleman will be able to simply charge, the supplier will be able to charge as per the location of the supplier, CS or I, and the recipient will be able to take that particular credit. I think what we need to, in sum, what we need to focus is the CSR amendment, how our clients are getting impacted. Voluntary CSR have already discussed the nuance around voluntary CSR. Sponsorships will also get challenged in veil of being called as a CSR. Second is the very crucial amendment in section 16, which I spoke, where the intent has been changed from added to output to tax to paid by him. So when you are paying ITC reversal, that is not an output tax. My dear friend, output tax, if given a choice, I can tell you output tax is a very, very different and serious issue. Output tax is not by of caution anything which you have to pay. It is a very, very sensitive thing. We'll speak about this sometime later. And last but not the least, 17(3), जो exempt services, exempt supplies का reversal है, उसमें जो एक exclusion add हुआ, but उसके अलावा बाकी सब exclusions, they have been cemented by the government. No, you have to add it. You have to add them. All the schedule 3 entries except these two to the value of exempt supply for the computation of the reversal of common credit. So with this, I put rest to my deliberation. If there are any questions, we'll
we have a few questions in Q&A. If you can look into the
very quickly, I'll take it, Gauravji. So Sarniam ji is saying, what about CSR pertaining 1/7/17 to 31/3/23? I think Sarniam ji, we have to still wait whether it will be 13/1/23 or it will be further pushed. But yes, till this particular amendment is not placed, it is available to you. आपको अगर कोई डिसअलायंस होता है तो वो रेट्रोस्पेक्टिव नहीं होता, स्पेसिफिक डिसअलायंस गोइंग फॉरवर्ड ही हो सकता है. नाउ out and out supply. Nitin Bhutta ji, I think this particular topic कि जो बाकी शेड्यूल 3 की एक्सक्लूजन्स हैं वो मैंने स्पेसिफिकली आपसे डिस्कस करी है. दे विल बी लिटिगेटिव. इट इज नॉट इजी टू sort of take them out. So my humble submission is you have to look into the each and every entry separately and take your call on 17.3. Next is, what is the legal reasoning for introducing limit of 3 years? Nitin ji, very simple. I think 3 years is also a long time. The simple reasoning should have been, आपकी ड्यू डेट होती है फाइल करने की एनुअल रिटर्न विच इज दिसंबर ऑफ नेक्स्ट ईयर. सो इन एनी केस माय एनुअल रिटर्न इज सपोज्ड टू बी फाइल्ड बाय एंड ऑफ द नेक्स्ट ईयर. मेरे को 3 साल तक रिटर्न फाइल करने का इसलिए भी बैरियर रखा गया क्योंकि मेरा जो 73 सेक्शन है वो कहता है आप मेरी डिमांड निकाल सकते हैं फ्रॉम 3 years फ्रॉम द ड्यू डेट ऑफ फाइलिंग ऑफ एनुअल रिटर्न if it is not a case of fraud, suppression or willful misstatement. So to align 73 and to impose a restriction on the taxpayers कि ठीक है, अगर आज ऑफिसर ने एक डिमांड निकाल दी है 73 के अंदर, उसके बाद टैक्सपेयर जाके रिटर्न फाइल कर देता है और कहता है देखिए साहब, आई हैव कम आउट क्लीन. So that particular opportunity window has been closed. Now you can't file it after even 3 years. You will have to file within 3 years, and within that particular time frame the officer has full window to determine your liability. So suppose आज मैं कोई फाइलिंग नहीं करता, मेरा ऑफिसर जो है 3 साल तक फ्रॉम द ड्यू डेट ऑफ फाइलिंग ऑफ एनुअल रिटर्न मेरी नॉर्मल डिमांड निकाल सकता है विदाउट इवन एलिगेशन ऑफ फ्रॉड, सप्रेशन और विलफुल मिसस्टेटमेंट. अब उसकी डेट निकल जाती है डिमांड निकालने की और उसके बाद मैं डिक्लेयर कर देता हूं exempted services, exempted supplies. So the window for the officer has gone out. My declaration now has come up, and therefore now officer has a very limited window to put that particular declaration into fraud, willful misstatement or suppression. So it will be very tough when you're filing a return to put that particular item into suppression. So to remove that anomaly, this particular thing has been done. Rajesh Kurana ji, if CSR is voluntary, it will be difficult to justify the said expenditure in the course of furtherance of business. I don't think so, Rajesh ji. It will always be in the course of furtherance of business because एक private limited या public limited company कोई भी चीज personal use के लिए तो कर ही नहीं सकती. It is in the course of furtherance of the business. Yes, whether it will qualify as a gift 17.5H. अगर suppose मैंने CSR activity के तहत मैंने सब में गिफ्ट्स बांट दिए, एक पेन बांट दिया गरीब बच्चों, साथ में नोटबुक्स बांट दी. Now that particular activity, if you are doing for 10,000 children, it is a supply of goods which are disposed of by way of gift. It gets stuck into the nuance of 17.5H, but services don't get stuck. So goods के केस में तो हमें वहां CSR में नहीं अटकेंगे, अगर हम FA में तो हम H में अटक जाएंगे. पर सर्विसेज के अंदर, in my humble opinion, the battle is still on. और मैंने जो आपको बताया sponsorship vis-a-vis CSR, it will be the next battle which will come up in litigation in the coming times when officer will often tend to mix sponsorship with CSR. If an activity has failed to, assessee has failed to file 3 years to GST1 which involve GST payment liability, what will happen to liability to pay tax? Will such person be chased under 74? Rajesh, definitely he will be chased, and please do remember, if he has also collected tax, then 73 and 74 limitation of time period वो भी उसके ऊपर नहीं लगेंगे. सो वो और भी ज्यादा डैमेजिंग हो जाता है ऐसे व्यक्ति के लिए. अगर किसी ने टैक्स नहीं पे करा है तो मेरा तो सिंपल सबमिशन है, टेक्निकल चैलेंजेस अलग बात है, टैक्स ना पे करना, आई डोंट थिंक द लॉ कैन बी रेड टू फेवर दैट पर्टिकुलर पर्सन. Take my words, courts will not take any kind of rescue to that particular man who is not filing the return where he is liable to pay tax. If there are impossibilities, there are genuine problems, courts will definitely help. Otherwise, no. Last question on my platter, which is there in front of me, Nitin Bhutta ji. If supplier has supplied goods 128, tax plus value, 50 paid within 180 days, 50 paid after 180 days. In above scenario, supplier would have filed 1 and he would have also filed 3B. Such ITC is reported in 2B also. So what will happen to eligibility of ITC under 37? So very simple. The total amount which was supposed to be paid was 128. आपने कितनी 180 days में payment करी है? 50 rupees. So आपका कितना unpaid है? 78. So 28 divided by 78. 28 divided by 128 into 78. This is the amount of tax you are supposed to pay. Now it is not the word reverse. It is pay. Under section 16 subsection 2, second proviso, read with rule 37 using your 3B. Now in this particular case, आपको proportionate निकालना है. हाँ, जब भी आप उसको 180 दिन के बाद पेमेंट कर देंगे 78 रुपीस की, या उसको भी टुकड़ों में करेंगे, तब आप इसको प्रोपोर्शनेटली अपने उसमें 3B में reclaim कर सकते. So that option is there with you in both the section as well as the rule. So with this, I think I have cleared all the question and answer also. Deepak ji, as always, please sir.
अब मैं जो क्वेश्चन पूछने जा रहा हूँ वो जीएसटी का क्वेश्चन तो नहीं है, लेकिन लॉ का क्वेश्चन है डेफिनेटली. इफ यू लुक एट दिस फाइनेंस बिल सेक्शन 2, it says save as otherwise provided in this act, section 2 to section 122 shall come into force on the first day of April 2023. ये बड़ा क्लियरली बोल रहा है कि सेक्शन 2 to 22 it will come into force from 1st of April 2023 except जिन sections के अंदर exception दी हुई है. So it means it is not talking about section 123 onward, correct? And 123 onward means GST part.
Correct.
So if I look at book of Principle of Statutory Interpretation by Justice G.P. Singh,
which is the base book for, yes,
base book, right?
The Bible.
Bible. It says, unless provided otherwise, a central act comes into operation on the day it receives the presidential assent and is construed as coming into operation immediately on the expiring of the date. यानी कि अगर मान लो 24 को उसने प्रेसिडेंट ने एक्सेंट दी तो 23 तारीख और 24 तारीख की रात से वो चालू हो जाएगा. Now very interestingly, if I look at the memo क्या बोलता है? Amendments carried out in the Finance Bill 2023 except those in clause 142 will come into force on the day when the same will be notified concurrently as far as possible with the corresponding amendment to the similar act passed by the state and union territory with legislature. अगर मैं पिछले फाइनेंस एक्ट उठाऊं, पिछले फाइनेंस एक्ट में बड़ा क्लियरली मेंशन था कि भैया जो प्रोविजन है जब हम नोटिफाई करेंगे तब आएगा. अब इसको मैं कैसे रिकंसाइल करूं? एक तरफ तो इंटेंट तो यही होना चाहिए था कि जब स्टेट वाले पास कर देंगे तभी आप जो है इसको लागू करेंगे. बट लॉ विच स्टैंड्स एज फार एज दिस बिल इज कंसर्न्ड, unless and until they introduce the amendment, so it will be a very peculiar situation. How will you address that?
Okay, I don't think there is any kind of a conflict between the two of it, because number one, the clause 2 of the finance bill, it only poses a sort of a date for up to 122, clause 122. So uske baad ke liye clauses open hai, and once they are open, then your General Clauses Act comes into force, and therefore the date on which the presidential assent is there, as very we have also read in our Bible of
right,
Shri G.P. Singh ji. The date of presidential assent will be the date when it comes into force. Now, the force, when you say it will come into force by notification, जो एक आप गैप की बात कर रहे हैं कि भाई मेरा प्रेसिडेंशियल असेंट होते ही ये सब लागू हो जाएगा सेंट्रल एक्ट में, पर स्टेट एक्ट में पैरेलली अभी मेरा लागू नहीं हुआ शायद. सो एक गैप दोनों एक्ट्स के बीच में आने के चांसेस हैं. 168 की पावर गवर्नमेंट किसी ना किसी टाइम पे जरूर यूज कर लेगी टू आंसर दैट पर्टिकुलर सिचुएशन, बिकॉज दैट पर्टिकुलर गैप इज, और ये वाला गैप जो है ना दीपक भाई, दिस इज नॉट समथिंग व्हिच इज न्यू. I am with you because we have taken this particular proposition before Honorable Delhi High Court that there are gaps in the dates of the notifications which are issued by the center and vis-a-vis the states, and it is only the exemption notifications which can be borrowed by the state from the center. What about the other? Now the issue remains still unaddressed. It's a very typical kind of a situation. In my humble opinion, what you are saying is very, very correct. Very, very correct. यहाँ पे नोटिफिकेशन की अहमियत यही होती थी कि दोनों को अलाइन करने के लिए वो नोटिफिकेशन रखा जाता.
करेक्ट.
अगर अब ये वाले फोर्स में आ जाएंगे और वो फोर्स में नहीं आते, बिकॉज मेरे को भी वो लाइन नहीं दिख रही है जो आप बात कह रहे हैं कि ये अमेंडमेंट्स जो है हमारे
पूरा बिल ऊपर से लेके नीचे तक पूरा छांट लिया मैंने, मेरे को कहीं नहीं
वो
मिला।
जो गैप है वो मैं पूरा नहीं छाट पाया हूँ, बट जो रेलिवेंट सेक्शन था मैंने वो देख लिया था, उसमें ये मिसिंग. So I am totally with you. This particular gap is there, and this might cause a problem tomorrow. But this gap is not new because this gap has been already taken up before the Honorable Delhi High Court in context of the notifications. So let's see if something goes to the detriment of the taxpayer, we always have a rescue to go to the courts. If something is to the favor of the taxpayer, I think nothing need to be done.
जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल मैं लिमिटेशन की बात ही करता हूँ, आपने लिमिटेशन इंट्रोड्यूस कर दी, सेंटर में तो आ गई, स्टेट में नहीं आ गई, तो इट विल अगेन बिकम अ वेरी लिटिगेटिव इशू. कल को मैं आके कह सकता हूँ ये सेंटर में है तो इसका मतलब आधी मेरी रिटर्न तो लिमिटेशन में और आधी रिटर्न क्या लिमिटेशन में नहीं है.
उससे भी बड़ी बात है जैसे 16(2) का आपका चेंज है. Now this is not a small change. It is a very very material change. 17(3) का चेंज है, material change. How can you have two different acts applying on the SSC at the same time? कहीं ना कहीं पे these gaps have started because we are in a hurry to bring amendments. So कहीं ना कहीं पे ये चीजें disputes में जाती हैं, and yes, अगर कोई SSC अटकता है, अब हम रूल 37 up to 30th of September 2022 16(2) कहता था आउटपुट टैक्स में ऐड होगा, बट रूल कहता था ये आउटपुट टैक्स में ऐड होगा बाय वे ऑफ जीएसटी 2. जीएसटी 2 कभी थी नहीं, तो रूल 37 के नॉन ऑपरेशन के कारण हम कह रहे थे कि हमारे को कभी भी रिवर्सल 16(2) सेकंड प्रोवाइजो का देना नहीं. गवर्नमेंट ने अब जाकर आफ्टर 5 years 1 October 2022 से उसको अमेंड किया. सो दीज गैप्स हैव ऑलवेज बीन देयर, नथिंग न्यू टू मी.
अब तक हमने जितनी ऑडिट्स करी हैं हमने उसमें यही प्ली लिया जो भी आपने बताई है कि जब प्रोविजन ही नहीं है, मशीनरी प्रोविजन ही नहीं है तो रिवर्सल.
I remember very clearly. I have been fighting for this cause. I think in many of the show causes also, many of the appeals also. I'm very clear. I'll not pay this particular tax in past up to 1 October 2022 because there was no mechanism. Ramsaran, Gangasaran, any other decision, all are in my favor. Honorable Supreme Court is in my favor. Machinery mechanism missing. I'll not reverse.
Let's move further, Gaurav.
Thank you, Gaurav bhai. Deepak ji, let's take few questions from the audience on GST before we move ahead on the direct tax proposal. So if any of our attendees, participants have any question, they may please raise their hand and we would be happy to take your question. You may please raise your hand if you have any question. I think there is no hand raise. So we have hand raise from Renu Sharma ji. Let me allow Renu ji to share. Renu ji, you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Renu ji, you are not audible. Please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Am I now audible?
Yeah, you are audible now.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Renu ji.
मेरा क्वेश्चन अभी बजट से रिलेटेड तो नहीं है, बट मुझे पूछना था कंपोजिशन स्कीम के लिए नोटिफिकेशन 2/2019 में जो आया था.
Renu ji, my request, let's keep ourselves to budget question because otherwise, the session would
Okay.
people will, leave their interest. People will don't have the interest. So I'm muting you. Sitaram ji, please unmute yourself and ask your question if relating to budget. Sitaram ji, I think he's not able to unmute. So let me move ahead. Thank you. Thank you, Devendra ji. Thank you, Gaurav bhai, for sharing your time and sharing your knowledge. It was wonderful listening both of you. I'm sure you will going to stay with us, till the session continues. I also recognize the presence of Saurabh Bindal ji, who has joined us as a panelist. Saurabh bhai, would you like to contribute something, to the budget? What is your view on the budget? If you are there, Saurabh bhai. Joining. Okay, so let's move ahead on the direct tax proposal. So Deepak ji, you discussed about the personal taxation.
I'm so sorry, but I have a family.
And
commitment.
in personal taxation, we discussed about the new tax regime.
Gaurav, I think Gaurav Gupta has to leave.
हाँ जी गौरव भाई आप निकल रहे
Gaurav ji, I have a family commitment to meet, so there's a function. I'll take the.
Please, thanks a ton, Gaurav bhai, for coming and sharing your words of wisdom. Thank you from the team FTAP. Now, Deepak bhai, if I'm right, we need to discuss gift by resident to not ordinary resident. I think that is something which is left in personal taxation, correct?
Right.
Okay. So, friends, as we all know that in case of a resident but not ordinary resident, we have three categories. One is resident, then we have in resident, we have resident but not ordinary resident, and we also have non-residents. As far as residents are concerned, their global income is taxable. As far as non-residents are concerned, if there is an income which is accrue or arise in India or deemed to accrue or arise in India, it is taxable. Or if income is received in India or deemed to be received in India, it is taxable. Other than this, no income of non-resident is taxable. However, as far as resident but not ordinary residents are concerned, what is taxable is if the income is accrue or arise in India or deemed to accrue or arise in India, or income is received or deemed to received in India. As far as global income is concerned, that is the income which is accrue or arise outside India or deemed to accrue or arise outside India, it is only taxable if it is from a business controlled in India or profession managed in India. So the question came that when a resident is giving a gift to non-resident, to a resident but not ordinary resident, whether such gift is taxable or not. In this case, resident but not ordinary resident, I will in short will use the word term NOR. NOR used to take a stand that as far as gift is concerned, it is accrue or arising outside India. It is not accrue or arising in India. And being it is accrue or arising outside India, it is not taxable in India. Now, this loophole has been plugged. And how they have plugged? They have made the amendment in section 918. So now 918 talks about the taxation of gift. And in case of the taxation of gift, 918 says that wherein there is a gift from a resident to non-resident, it would be deemed to accrue or arise in India. Now they have removed the word non-resident. Now the 918 would be read as if there is a gift from a resident, maybe to resident, maybe to non-resident, maybe to not ordinary resident. In such a case, the income from gift would be deemed to accrue or arise in India under section 9. And being deemed to accrue or arise in India, it would become taxable in India. Now the gift to non-resident is taxable. Certainly the benefit of 50,000 which is given in section 55, that is still available to NOR. So this was again the impact on the personal taxation. With this, I think we are more or less done with the key provision of personal taxation. And let me, Jaspal bhai, you have something to say on this?
Okay. I guess on international taxation, I am hardly an expert. And after you have elaborated the subject so beautifully, I don't think so I have anything to add up to this.
Thank you. So let's move on to another very interesting topic and another very interesting amendment which has been made by the budget, or the proposal which has been made is section 2028, which is related to taxation, income from business or profession. And the amendment is with regard to section 28 subclause 4. We all know that 28.4 is there for long, and it refers to taxation of benefits or perquisites arising from the business or profession. And it defines benefit or perquisite in a way that something which is given in cash was never a point, it never covered under 28.4. So whether something is, in kind or something which is can be convertible to kind was the subject matter of 28.4. But the department, again, they always kept on litigating. And the matter went to the Supreme Court in the case of Mahindra and Mahindra, wherein the apex court ruled that 28.4 is not applicable on cash transactions. So the matter was that, the Mahindra and Mahindra received some loan for some capital asset, which was written off. So the department argued this writing off of a loan is a benefit under section 28 subsection 4 and should be brought to tax. And the matter went to the apex court, and apex court very clearly said, no. The cash transaction is not part of 28.4 and this transaction will not get covered under 28.4. And last year we saw the department came up with a new section to collect a TDS on benefit and perquisite, and that section is 194R. And they also came up with the two circulars, circular 12 of 2022 and circular, I think 18 of 2022, which gave the additional guidance to interpret section 194R. And one of the litigative point in those circular number 12 and 18 was regarding this cash component. So in circular number 12, I think question number 2 or 3, the guidelines was that, it is applicable on cash transaction. And they also cited a case wherein the loan was taken for a capital asset and it was write-off. So department, the guidelines, the circular very clearly said that it will be treated as benefit or perquisite under section 194R. And then they came up with the circular number 18, wherein they give relief that, this would be considered as a benefit, but we are giving a relief to certain entities, primarily organizations which are involved in banking or, banking transactions, banking or NBFC companies. They gave relief to this. But the dispute was still there, whether the benefit or perquisite under 28.4 covers cash transaction or not. Now, through this amendment, through the proposed, through this Union Budget 2023, the CBDT, the Ministry of Finance per se, has proposed to remove this litigation, and now they are saying that benefit or perquisite covers cash transactions as well. And I think it would have very large ramification. Now, going by the judgments and going by circular 12 and 18, now if you have taken a loan, let's say a capital loan, and you are writing it off, then it would become a benefit under section 28.4, and one needs to offer it for tax. Similarly, it would also be treated as benefit or perquisite under section 194R, and one needs to deduct the TDS. So this was one of the very important amendment, which I feel will going to create a lot of issues for the business, wherein the business are writing it off any capital loan, or they are receiving any cash, or wherein the benefit is extended. I would request my co-panelists Deepak ji and Jaspal ji, if you have some, because this is a very litigative topic, if you have something to add, Jaspal bhai or Deepak bhai.
I was lost which topic we are talking about.
We are on benefits and perquisites received in cash.
Okay.
Under section 28.4, this would be treated as income. Jaspal bhai, you have something to say, or any parties, any audience, if they have any question for me, feel free to ask.
You have very rightly pointed out that this provision, and I also feel that there is a lot of litigation that we might foresee in the coming times. And it is an irony that government has always been saying for the last many years that we are working and bringing in provisions to reduce the litigation. But on the contrary, what is happening is, once an issue matures and reaches the Supreme Court for a decision, And in case it is the courts are of the view and it favors the assessees on a certain point, the government rolls back to the comes back to the legislature, and by way of amendments, they go back in time. They try to go back in time and change the law itself so as to include those transactions and make them taxable. So bringing in provisions like this, definitely, see, I primarily might not agree, might not differ with the fact that this transaction may have to be taxable, but this is not the exact way and procedure to negate a judgment and bring in legislation in this way. This will only add on to the issue and not resolve it.
Gaurav, you're on mute.
Now let's move on to the second very important amendment in the business taxation, and that is relating to payment to micro and small enterprises, wherein the proposal is that now onwards it would be allowed on a cash basis. So over to Deepak Bhai for his view on this amendment.
Thank you, Gaurav. As earlier we were discussing that government is actually trying to run my business through taxation only. And we can see a lot of examples. One example is through GST, where I'm forced to pay within 180 days, otherwise my ITC will be reversed. I mean, I need to reverse my ITC, effectively reversal of the ITC. Maybe on the repayment, I can claim it. And then on the similar line, now they are saying that if I don't pay to MSMEs as per the timeline, they will disallow and then reallow only on the payment. So let's see what this provision talks about. Now, if I read the amended section 43B, it will be like this only. Starting with section 43B, the first line, notwithstanding anything contained in any other provisions of this act, a deduction otherwise allowable under this act in respect of any sum, the word is any sum, payable by the assessee to a micro or small enterprises beyond the time limit specified in section 15 of the MSME Act, MSME Act 2006. Again, there are so many clauses. I'm only focusing on the relevant clause today. Shall be allowed, and in bracket it says, irrespective of the previous year in which the liability to pay such sum was incurred by the assessee according to the method of accounting regularly employed by him, only in computing the income referred to in section 28 of that previous year in which such sum is actually paid by him, right? Meaning thereby that the payment, I mean the deduction as far as the expenses which are in relation to MSMEs, it will be allowed only on the payment basis, And also it says, provided that nothing in this section except the proviso of clause H shall apply in relation to any sum which is actually paid by the assessee on or before the due date. So basically what it's trying to say is, so let's say in case of PF, or let's say in the case of VAT or GST, if I don't pay it before the due date, but if I paid after the due date, but prior to date of filing my return, which can be 31st of July, which can be 30th of September, which can be 30th of November, as the case may be. If that amount is paid by that date, again, it is allowed in the very year of the incurrence. So if let's say there is an expense which is incurred in financial year 23-24, but I don't pay it within the time limit allowed, and it is again not paid by 31st of March 2023. Obviously, both the conditions I have to see. And it is paid beyond that. So it will be allowed in the next year of payment only. Had it been some other expense, it would have been allowed to me because the date of payment is again prior to 30th of September. So it is also harsh in that respect. Now the question is, it is talking about the time limit specified in section 15. So what is the time limit specified in section 15 of the MSME Act? First is, if there is any agreement with your MSME. So whatever is the timelines prescribed in that agreement, or 45 days, whichever is less, shall apply. So if let's say your agreement talks about 60 days, then 45 days is the applicable timeline. If agreement talks about 30 days, the applicable timeline shall be 30 days. And in case there is no timeline at all, there is no timeline at all, only 15 days, only 15 days. So can you imagine the impact of this provision which is going to be on the business community? Now, the question is, how should I identify MSME, right? And again, this question is not new as far as companies are concerned, because you see, if I look at Company Act, there is a requirement to file MSME form. We have to identify the MSMEs, isn't it? So the question is how to identify MSMEs. So the government of India had issued one office memorandum, which is called as Office Memorandum number 218, dated 26th of August 2008, which provides as under that as per section 2 so and so of MSME Act, a supplier means a micro small enterprises which has filed a memorandum with the authority referring so and so. So it is considered advisable that the MSME should mention or get printed on their letterheads or any office stationery, bills, which includes bills, invoices, and so and so forth. Their either EM number or now it is a UAM number as notified, so that they can be identified as an MSME. So it is one of the way to identify. Generally, what we do is we write to our MSMEs, right? They either they respond or they don't respond. So if let's say there is an MSME who has clearly mentioned its number, which let's take an example. I am an MSME. I on all the invoices, I make sure that my UAM number is mentioned, and I also write with the, on the face of the invoice that I am a small enterprises and I am covered by so and so section. So in order to identify an MSME, the right way is that you look at the invoices of your suppliers, and it is one of the ways, my dear friends. If your MSME has communicated to you separately that I am an MSME, even though the MSME number is not mentioned on the invoices, it is still an MSME, isn't it? So in order to understand the impact of this provision, I have created two studies, and I would like to involve all of my participants to actually participate in this study. And Rahul ji and Gaurav ji, we will also take up your question along with this study itself. So I am talking about a buyer. The firm name of which is Daksham. And the name of the supplier for that buyer is GGDB, right? So message GGDB. So GGDB is nothing but the Gaurav Garg and Deepak Bholusaria. It is the abbreviation of GGDB. It is the abbreviation GGDB. So again, there is no written agreement between Daksham and GGDB. And I have presented before you the ledger of message GGDB in the books of Daksham. So on 1st of April 2023, when this provision will come into effect, the opening balance, which was payable, which Messrs. Daksham owe to Messrs. GGDB is 5 lakh of rupee. Now, during the year, on 12th of April, I made a payment of 4 lakh of rupee. To Messrs. Daksham. On 1st of March 2024, please mind that each and every date has been taken with certain aspects in mind to understand this provision. So on 1st of March 2024, an invoice of 12 lakh was booked. And I am assuming that the date of invoice is also 1st of March 2024. On 30th of March 2024, a payment of 12 lakh was made. And on 31st of March 2024, there is a closing balance of 1 lakh of rupee. Now, my question before the audience, I'm opening this case study to the audience, is how much is the amount of disallowance as far as assessment year 2024 and 25 is concerned? It is an open question. I would like to have the answers either to the chat window or maybe through question and answer window also. Or maybe Gaurav may allow participants to raise their hands and they can even speak. I have 2 case studies.
I think in a chat box, one can type the answer.
Right.
And we can query, we can take query through Q&A mode. That is, I can allow to speak.
Now, as per Amit Gupta, there is no disallowance as far as assessment year 2024 and 25 is concerned. Sir, we are still on the question number A only. We are still on the question number A only. Is there any disallowance under section 43B? And Amitji, I will also come back to you to inquire why there is no disallowance. Why there is no disallowance. Any other opinion, any other answer, please? Again, let me. Yogesh Singla ji says 1 lakh of rupee. Amit ji says no disallowance.
Deepak bhai, I think.
Can I answer it?
Deepak ji, I have something to add, if you allow.
Sure, please.
See, there is a closing balance which is appearing.
Right.
So probably we need to identify whether this closing balance relates to which invoice.
Correct. That's correct. That's the correct approach, Gaurav. That is why my question number B says, will my answer change if Daksham insists that the 12 lakh rupee of payment has been made against the invoice of 12 lakh rupees? So the question is why question B will come into picture and how the situation will change if question B is not into picture. So my dear friends, in this case, we have to rely upon our Contract Act 2000, Contract Act. I don't remember the year, Contract Act. Now, as per Contract Act, if payer doesn't specify against which invoice this payment is being made, then recipient of the payment is free to adjust that payment according to his whim and fancy. It is written in the Contract Act itself, my dear friends. But if payer specify that this payment is against this invoice only, then recipient has to adjust that amount against that invoice only, Gaurav. So in situation number A, when there is no fact as to which this payment of 12 lakh or 12 lakh has been made, so what I will do is I will use the on account accounting, right? So first in, first out. So starting with opening balance of 5 lakh, first I will adjust 4 lakh. It is very much clear. Even if there is nothing here, it is very much clear that 4 lakh of payment has been made against 5 lakh rupee, opening balance of 5 lakh. So again, I have 1 lakh rupee balance. Then again, there is an addition of 12 lakh. The outstanding becomes 13 lakh. Then I am making 12 lakh of payment. So if I apply FIFO method, then first 1 lakh is getting adjusted. And then another 11 lakh is getting adjusted against the invoice of 1st of March 2024. So the closing balance, if I follow FIFO method, if I create an invoice-wise aging, Gaurav, it is the invoice of 1st of March 2024, which is still outstanding as on 31st of March 2024. So if I look at 1st of March 2024 invoice, it is already overdue as far as MSME Act is concerned. Why? There is no written agreement. Please read the fact. There is no written agreement. So it means that the invoice of 1st of March 2024 should have been paid within 15 days. Since invoice has not been paid within the time limit of MSME Act, it will qualify for disallowance. Now coming to second situation where I'm insisting that this 12 lakh of rupee of payment is made against 12 lakh of invoice only, applying my Contract Act. In that case, this 1 lakh rupee outstanding is against opening balance only. Now, if the outstanding is against opening balance of financial year 22nd, 23rd, will it qualify for disallowance? This is my question. Now, I read the answer. First of all, Amit Gupta ji, no disallowances for assessment 2024-25. So Amit, I would like to ask you why no disallowances for 2024 to 25? In question number A, if I follow FIFO method, yes, there will be disallowance. But in situation B, is there any disallowance or not? This is my question. This is the interesting, because you see, since it is the first year of implementation, it will create this kind of situations before all of you, my dear friends. And it is very important that we understand this provision bare thread. That is why I have created this case study, keeping in mind most of the questions which we may face during our audit. Because being a chartered accountant, we will be tasked with this particular situation only. You have to ask, if let's say, you also need to look at the invoices, you also need to look at the correspondences, how the payment are being made, how the payments are being adjusted in the system. So in my humble opinion, if I look at question number B, this 1 lakh rupee will not be disallowed. Now, why it will not be disallowed? Now let's go back to the bare provision. It says, as per section 43B is concerned, that the amount shall be allowed irrespective. Let me start the laser pointer. Shall be allowed irrespective of the previous year in which liability to pay such sum was incurred by the assessee. Now, if I barely read this provision, it says किसी भी साल का हो सर, कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, डिसअलाउ हो जाएगा. तो फिर मैं ये बात क्यों कह रहा हूं कि डिसअलाउ नहीं होगा? Reason being, look at this. A deduction otherwise allowable. Sir, 43B is not a disallowable section. Please appreciate. पहले ये आपको वो कहता भैया जो डिडक्शन अदरवाइज अलाउएबल है. अगर ऐसा होता तो सेक्शन 145A लेके आने की जरूरत ही नहीं थी हमें. सेक्शन 145A क्यों आया? सेक्शन 45A इसीलिए आया बिकॉज इट्स ए डीमिंग फिक्शन. और जो आया किसके लिए था? आपके जीएसटी और आपके वैट्स के लिए. जहां आप जीएसटी और वैट आप प्रॉफिट लॉस अकाउंट के थ्रू आप रूट ही नहीं करते थे. इसीलिए आप जब अपनी 3CD बनाते हैं आप स्पेसिफिकली लिखते हैं whether this amount is routed through PL or not. सर, ये जो अमाउंट आप जिसकी बात कर रहे हैं 1 लाख रुपए की, क्या ये डिसअलाउ हुई है? पहले डिसअलाउ होगी तभी तो अलाउ करोगे आप. अलाउंस तो आपने पिछले साल में ले लिया और ये प्रोविजन भी उस पर नहीं लगेगा. तो मेरी हम्बल ओपिनियन में जो 22-23 का जो अमाउंट है वो कवर नहीं होगा 43 में. 23-24 ऑनवर्ड तो सारा कवर होना शुरू हो जाएगा. So this is my take on this. Let me go to my study. अब यहां पे फैक्ट्स मैंने थोड़े चेंज कर दिए. एंड नाउ इंस्टेड ऑफ क्रिएटिंग अ लेजर, आई हैव क्रिएटेड एन इनवॉइस वाइज एजिंग. राइट? सो नाउ द पेमेंट टर्म्स आर 30 डेज. जब मैं पेमेंट कह रहा हूं कि 30 डेज के टर्म है, इट हैज टू बी इन राइटिंग माय डियर फ्रेंड्स. वर्बल से काम नहीं चलेगा. राइटिंग का मतलब आप मेल पे भी राइटिंग में ले सकते हैं. ऐसा नहीं है कि आपके पास एक प्रॉपर एग्रीमेंट ही होना जरूरी है. आपका कोई पीओ है तो पीओ में भी वो मेंशन हो सकता है. सो देयर मस्ट बी एन एग्रीमेंट. यू सी, अनरिटन एग्रीमेंट कैन बी एन एग्रीमेंट. कल को अगर आपका वेंडर जो है ये सर्टिफाई कर दे या कंफर्मेशन दे दे कि यस दिस इज द अंडरस्टैंडिंग बिटवीन अस, सो दैट विल ऑल्सो बी एन एग्रीमेंट. तो ऐसा नहीं मैं कहूंगा कि जी हर बार आपको राइटिंग है, बट आपके पास डॉक्यूमेंट्री एविडेंस तो होना चाहिए ना. सो पेमेंट टर्म्स आर 30 डेज. अब अगर 31/3/2024 को मैं आउटस्टैंडिंग देखता हूं तो उसमें लिखा हुआ है जी कि 1/3/2023 का जो इनवॉइस है 7,905 रुपए, उसका 120,903 रुपए है, जो कि 1 अप्रैल को मैंने पे भी कर दिया. सिमिलरली 3 मार्च अजय जी ने कहा अमाउंट शैल बी अलाउड इन द ईयर इन व्हिच पेमेंट इज मेड. यस, मैं तो ये कह ही नहीं रहा कि नहीं है. अभी हमें सवाल ये कि डिसअलाउ कहां होगा. मैं पहला साल पे इसलिए कंसंट्रेट करूंगा कि पहला साल डिसअलाउंस का ही होना है सर. आपका अलाउंस का तो आपका सेकंड ईयर आएगा. तब आपको एक पूरी वॉक भी बनानी पड़ेगी. पिछला कितना डिसअलाउंसेस है, इस साल आपने कितना पेमेंट किया, इस साल कितना डिसअलाउंसेस है. क्या हम बाकी चीजें के लिए नहीं बनाते क्या? अभी 43B में भी तो हम बनाते हैं, आई मीन 3CD में तो बनाते हैं कि वो कितनी अमाउंट थी जो पहले कभी किसी साल में डिसअलाउ हुई थी, जिसका पेमेंट अब आप कर रहे हो, वो कितनी अमाउंट है जो इस साल डिसअलाउ हुई है. तो इस ढंग से आपको एक पूरी वॉक भी बनानी पड़ेगी, एंड इट्स गोइंग टू बी अ वेरी चैलेंजिंग पार्ट ऑफ द ऑडिट, फ्रैंकली स्पीकिंग, बिकॉज अब आप डिसलाउंस की बात कर रहे हो, आप केवल डिस्क्लोजर की बात नहीं कर रहे हैं, अब आप डिसलाउंस की बात कर रहे हैं। सो ऑन 31 मार्च 2024 ये मेरी एजिंग है, और 1/4/2024 को एक एजिंग है। तो अगर मैं 1/3/2023 को देखता हूं तो मेरा एक बिल है 7,905 नंबर, जिसका अमाउंट 120,903 है, जो कि मैंने 1 अप्रैल को पे कर दिया। 3 अप्रैल को है, जो कि जो 3 मार्च का इनवॉइस है वो भी मैंने पार्शली पे किया। तो मेरा सवाल है कि असेसमेंट डेट 24-25 की डिसअलाउंस कितनी है या नहीं है या नहीं है?
Deepak ji, if I may add to this,
श्योर सर।
I am not even attempting to answer your question, sir. Because this is such a complicated question,
Yes,
and I
yes,
think you have just touched the tip of the iceberg
correct,
so far.
करेक्ट
दीपक
सर।
भाई,
मैंने एक इनवॉइस लिया सर।
सर
दीपक
मैं
भाई,
तो कह रहा हूं, अभी तो एक छोटा सा पॉइंट आपने हाथ लगाया है तो हमने आधा घंटा निकाल दिया इसके। You imagine the plight of a chartered accountant who is required to file 40 odd audit reports in 1 month.
Deepak bhai, with your permission, can I try?
क्या देखेगा?
श्योर सर, प्लीज।
I think the very first invoice, I understand the due date is within 30 days. तो जो 1 March 2023 वाला invoice है, being it is paid on 1 April, तो apparently it is not paid within the timeline.
करेक्ट।
So this one is disallowed.
तो मेरा सिंपल सा लेते हैं सर। 1 मार्च 2023 का जो इनवॉइस है उसकी ड्यू डेट क्या है सर? उससे हम आइडेंटिफाई करेंगे, क्योंकि इसमें मैंने ड्यू डेट ऐड नहीं करी है। अगर मैं ये ड्यू डेट ऐड कर दूं तो ये आसान, सारा काम आसान हो जाएगा। जसपाल जी, टू आंसर योर क्वेश्चन, you see, chartered accountants also needs to reinvent themselves. तो केवल पुराने धर्रे से हम ऑडिट करेंगे तो काम नहीं चलेगा। We have to employ.
No, sir, I am on a different scale. I was actually wanting to suggest something else. See, the issue is, ये तो अभी see, any PO, if we look at it, only one of the many terms is the payment terms. Many terms pertain to the quality assessments,
Correct.
the timely delivery of the goods.
Yes.
And there are provisions to effect that in case
Correct.
the deliveries are not on time, or if the quality is not up to the mark, there
Correct.
might be some certain deductions.
Correct. मैंने तो
Now,
judgment नहीं करा उसको।
those matters might be in dispute for a while.
Yes.
And in the interim, I am making a part payment. Now, whether I am going to look into that all aspects, and if at all, if this transaction goes into a court case, my payment will always be stuck, and I will never be allowed the benefit of this deduction.
सर इसका एक और मैं आपको एक हमने आई थिंक ये वाला तो एस्पेक्ट देख लिया, लेकिन एक एस्पेक्ट हमने अभी तक नहीं देखा। जैसे मैं अब जीएसटी का एग्जांपल लेता हूं, यहाँ पे जीएसटी में मंथली फाइलिंग भी है और क्वार्टरली फाइलिंग भी है।
Yes.
लोगों ने क्वार्टरली फाइलर के साथ काम करना बंद कर दिया था।
Yes.
तो क्या इसके बाद ऐसा भी होगा कि लोगों ने एमएसएमई के साथ काम करना बंद कर देना है? बिकॉज यू सी एमएसएमई इज ऑल्सो, यू सी एमएसएमई एक्ट इज ऑल्सो पेन इन द एस। मैं किस सेंस में कह रहा हूं, अभी थोड़े दिन पहले मेरे एक अकाउंट के अंदर एक छोटा सा अमाउंट आया बैंक अकाउंट के अंदर, ज्यादा नहीं था, कोई 300-400 रुपए का था। तो मैंने कहा यार पता नहीं कैसे आ गया। मैंने क्लाइंट को मैसेज किया, यार ये 300 रुपए कहां से आ गए, कोई कुछ टीडीएस का अमाउंट रह गया था क्या? कहता नहीं सर, वो आपका एमएसएमई का इंटरेस्ट है। और मैंने कभी फ्रैंकली स्पीकिंग दिमाग ही नहीं लगाया मैंने कि मेरी कभी पेमेंट जो है वो 45 दिन के बाद आई भी हो, क्योंकि भाई 45 दिन में नहीं आई होगी, 60 दिन में होगी। चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स को तो वैसे भी 2-2 साल में पेमेंट लेने की आदत है, तो अगर 60 दिन में आ भी गई तो क्या फर्क पड़ गया? मतलब कि इट्स अ बेटर सिचुएशन। तो मेरा एक और है, क्योंकि मार्केट में आपको कस्टम भी देखना पड़ेगा। आप हो सकता है एक ऐसी
industry standards, there are acceptable industry standards.
Correct.
And industry norms that payments are, maybe the act is suggesting one thing, the 45-day payment rule or whatever it is, and I agree that 30-day payment rule hai, and the supplier is happily accepting it after 45 or 50 days or 60 days, whatever it, वो कहता है पेमेंट आई, मेरा काम हुआ। तो सर इसको लाइटर सेंस में लिया जाए तो मियां बीवी राजी तो क्या करेगा गाजी? So why and how the income tax department wants to get into this transaction. And sir, मैं इसका पढ़ रहा था the memorandum. The memorandum suggests, para 2, in order to promote the timely payment of the MSMEs. Sir, बात तो करी जा रही है कि MSME को बेनिफिट देना है, बट MSME को बेनिफिट कहीं नहीं मिल रहा, तो सप्लायर उसको बेनिफिट देने की कहीं बात नहीं हो रही. Benefit will, the only one beneficial will be the tax department who will be getting the extra tax in 1 year, and maybe that will be allowable in the coming years.
Think of a situation, you are taxing income on the accrual basis.
Yes.
But allowing expense on cash basis. Now take another situation, and I must compliment Devinder Singh ji. Devinder Singh Nagpal ji is connected with us through a YouTube, and he has shared the correct answers. जो आप question पूछ रहे तो thanks Devinder ji. Now think of another situation, and which primarily happens, in a big companies or maybe in the government undertakings. Let's say I have raised an invoice today. It will go through various departments to accounts department. First, it will go to a purchase department. Purchase department will, give their approval, and then quality department, purchase department, and then finally to the accounts department. And it may take, 30 or 45 days before reaching to the accounts department, and then account department books the invoice, and then the check is prepared, and then it goes for a payment. And I'm talking specifically if any friend from government organization has joined us or maybe listening to this. Government organization generally takes 60 to 90 days before clearing a payment. Now tell me, Deepak bhai, I have a question. If I have raised the invoice today, which is booked by the organization after 30 days, and the as per the invoice due date is 30 days. So whether you will consider it due based on the invoice issued or based on the invoice booked?
Invoice date.
Now it is a big problem, big challenge.
It is.
Gaurav ji, what I feel is that
you look at the processes of any big company as far as material is concerned. Usually from the date goods are inwarded, right? When GRN is issued, right? And till the point that invoice is booked in the financial system, at least there is a gap of 30 to 40 days. At least. There are so many processes involved. Again, you see, it is all depends on the custom. I know that there is a cycle. You see, there is a cycle whereby invoice is cleared within 60 days or maybe within 3 months. So you have not taken into account those realities, those practical situation. You have just imposed it to please I shouldn't use the word.
The government is, not able to understand that if they are able to give refund, and that too they started very recently and not in the case of even 100%. When we are filing the return, they are giving the refund under the self-assessment basis. They have power to call the assessee later on. But what is the power with the businessman? So if I am not able to pay, if I am pushed to pay someone, the invoice within 15 days or within 45 days, and I have not checked the quality, there are issues with the services, I think the whole mechanism, the whole system is getting disturbed. So I am not, with the, I will say, the amendment is good, but the timeline which they have kept is pretty harsh. Maybe they would have allowed, let's say, some 90 days. I think that would have benefited both businesses and MSMEs. But 15 days timeline without any agreement, that too, let's say, even if 45 days timeline is slightly thinner.
Sir, I believe the agreement should have been given the cognizance. It should have been the overriding. It should have the overriding effect, right? Maybe not the unreasonable period. You can't say that okay, in the agreement there will be 300 days of due date, unless and until it is part of the custom or it is part of the industry standard, right? Or if there is no agreement, you could have specified okay within 90 days. Now you are saying no agreement, 15 days, agreement even then 45 days. How is it possible?
Deepak bhai, we need to, we have already invested.
In the meantime, There is one query from Mr. Nitin Bhutta. I believe, Nitinji, the example you have given that the supplier is procuring material worth 100 crore. I believe if the supplier is supplying material worth 100 crore, I don't think that he will be covered by the small or maybe medium. I need to look at the revised limits as far as MSME definition is concerned. But hypothetically assuming that it is correct, then yes, this will create that kind of situation. So if, let's say, on one hand, there is a 100 crore purchase, and on another hand, there is a 102 crore of sale. The payment for that 100 crore is not made on time. Please imagine the plight of that businessman.
See, threshold with regard to turnover is 5 crore and 50 crores. 5 crore.
That's why I told you, na, ki
50
the,
crore. Yeah.
So even if Gaurav, let's not go into 100. Let's take an example of 5 crore only. If I have a businessman who is purchasing goods worth rupees 5 crore and I am only selling it for 2% margin, please appreciate, only on 2% margin. You see, sometimes in the businesses you play on the credit only, right? आपने 5 करोड़ का माल खरीदा, 6 करोड़ में बेच दिया. You only have earned 1 crore. But आपकी पेमेंट टर्म्स क्या है जी? 3 महीने की पेमेंट टर्म्स है. Now you have not paid within 45 days. So what is going to happen? मेरे पास तो अभी पैसा आया ही नहीं है. आप समझो, जब मैं 90 दिन की बात करूंगा तो 90 दिन मेरे को आगे से भी 90 दिन ही मिलेंगे. ऐसा नहीं है कि मैं तो मेरे को तो पैसा आ जा रहा है और मैं पीछे 90 दिन में पे कर रहा हूं. इट इज द एंटायर साइकिल. इट इज द एंटायर साइकिल. पैसा मेरे पास आया नहीं और मुझे 45 दिन में पेमेंट करनी है. सो यू विल से द एंटायर अमाउंट विल बी एडेड बैक. सो आई बिलीव it is going to be a challenge in the court also. Correct. Maybe Jaspal ji may throw more light on this.
But I think I think we already had very in-depth discussion.
आगे बढ़.
So now quickly, if we can complete the business taxation, which is with you, and then we'll move on. You have done it. You are done with business taxation.
नहीं, वो मोटे-मोटे प्रोविजन हो गया. बाकी अभी हम 44AB और वो सब.
So let's quickly close business taxation and then give opportunity to Jaspal bhai to share his view on the amendment made in the charitable trust. So Deepak bhai, your turn to cover few more topics on business taxation. I think with regard to presumptive taxation, there is a change. With regard to the business provision. Yes, if you.
Now, till now, Gaurav, 44AD, if I talk about, it talks about 2 crore of rupee of turnover, right? If I read section 44AB, correct? It says if your turnover is more than 1 crore of rupee, you are required to get your books of accounts audited. But at the same time, 44AD कहता है कि अगर आपकी turnover 2 crore तक भी है, 2 crore तक भी है, and you are opting for 44AD, you see, it's very important. You are opting for 44AD, which is या तो आप 8% दे दीजिए या 6% दे दीजिए, ऐसा केस में भी, then up to 2 crore of rupee, you are not required to maintain any books of accounts or get your books of accounts audited. अब वो उसमें एक कदम और आगे चलेंगे. तो यानी कि जो 2 करोड़ रुपए तक की जो कंडीशन थी वो पहले भी थी और आज भी ही रहेगी. वो आज भी रहेगी. बट अगर मान लीजिए अब आपकी टर्नओवर फॉर एग्जांपल 2.25 करोड़ की है, मैं पहले पिछला प्रोविजन देखूंगा. पिछला प्रोविजन ये कहता था कि अगर आपकी टर्नओवर लेट्स से 2.25 करोड़ रुपए की है तो 44AD से तो आप आउट हो गए. यानी कि बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स तो आपको मेंटेन करने पड़ेंगे. बट ऑडिट नहीं होती अगर आपकी रिसीट्स और पेमेंट्स ये सभी की सभी नॉन कैश हैं. यानी कि 5% का वो एक क्राइटेरिया था, उसमें अगर आप फॉल कर जाते हैं, यानी कि मान लीजिए अगर आपकी 96% पेमेंट्स थ्रू बैंकिंग चैनल्स हैं, आई मीन अकाउंट पे चेक के थ्रू है, then there was no requirement to get your books of accounts audited. लेकिन बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स तो बनाना जरूरी था ही, ऑडिट की रिक्वायरमेंट नहीं थी. अब उन्होंने कहा कि अगर आपकी टर्नओवर 3 करोड़ है as far as businesses are concerned, eligible businesses are concerned, and your entire receipts, I'm again using the word receipt, entire receipts of more than 95% are through banking channels, that is through account pay checks. अगर आपने चेक से भी लिया लेकिन अकाउंट पे नहीं है, then it is also treated as cash, right? So अकाउंट पे ही अगर आपके पास आ रहा है या एनईएफटी से आ रहा है या बैंकिंग चैनल से आपके पास पैसा आ रहा है more than 95%, then again up to 3 crore, no requirement to maintain books of accounts, no audit, right? So this is the change. 2 crore तक कैश में आया, आपने चेक से लिया, it is hardly matters. लेकिन 2 से 3 करोड़ की जब मैं बात करूंगा तो फिर वो 5% वाली कंडीशन भी आ जाएगी. तो अब हमारे पास अब 3 तरह की लिमिट्स हो जाएंगी. एक से 2 करोड़, फिर 1 से 2 करोड़, सॉरी 0 to 1 करोड़, 1 करोड़ to 2 करोड़, 2 करोड़ to 3 करोड़ एंड 3 करोड़ प्लस. और इसमें कंपनीज एलिजिबल नहीं है, केवल आपके इंडिविजुअल एचयूएफ और नॉन एलएलपी जो फर्म्स हैं वो एलिजिबल है. सिमिलरली मैं बात करूं प्रोफेशनल्स की, तो जहां वो लिमिट 44 ADA में 50 लाख की थी, अब वो लिमिट जो है उन्होंने 75 लाख की कर दी है. अब वो लिमिट 75 लाख रुपए की कर दी है, अगेन विद द राइडर ऑफ 5%. दिस इज द चेंज. इसको अगर हम समराइज करें, अदरवाइज कभी हम अलग से इसको डिस्कस करेंगे कि जब टैक्स ऑडिट का समय आएगा, ज्यादा दूर भी नहीं है वो, तब हम इसको टॉपिक को हम डिस्कस कर सकते हैं कि नए प्रोविजन का टैक्स ऑडिट में किस किस सिचुएशन में क्या क्या इंपैक्ट आएगा. मोटे मोटे तौर पे यही है.
Correct. Thank you, Deepak bhai. I think very important change. Few quick changes in business taxation, then we will move on to charitable taxation. We have one section 35, 35D, which talks about amortization of preliminary expenditure. Usme we have a subsection 2. Subsection 2 mein, if there is an expenditure incurred on report and surveys, the same that was allowed to be amortized. But the condition was either that expenditure has been incurred by the SSC, the SSC has carried out survey or report himself, or he has appointed any authority which is approved by the CBDT. Now it was creating a problem that every time you need to go to some authority which is approved by the CBDT. Now that condition has been relaxed. Now the SSC may carry out report or survey himself, or he may appoint anyone, whether approved by CBDT or not, that is not material. He may, as per his wish and wish, appoint any person to carry out survey or report relating to business feasibility, for example. But later on, while claiming the expenditure, he needs to furnish those details, that who was that person, based on certain form that will come up. This is one change. The another change is with regard to the presumptive taxation, section 44BB and 44BBB. What it is a presumptive taxation. So what people used to do, wherein they used to have profit below the rates prescribed, they used to opt for normal taxation. When they used to have profit higher than the rates prescribed under presumptive taxation, they used to go for the presumptive taxation. So now in order to plug the loophole, they said, whatever the depreciation or carry forward of losses there, that will not be allowed to be carry forward under section 44 BB and BB. The another significant change which we can say which is impacting the business taxation is the units which are there in the SEZ zone. Now, if there is a unit in the SEZ zone and claiming 10AA exemption, till now the two conditions which were missing in 10AA, which were there in 10A but were not there in 10AA, was with regard to one, the filing of return of income before due date of ITR, and second, bringing or repatriating the money within the time frame, within the 6 months. Now, both the conditions have been proposed to be added in 10AA. Now, if a unit wishes to claim 10AA benefit, then they must file the ITR on time, and then they must bring or repatriate the money within the prescribed period, that is within 6 months, to India. The another amendment which we can say pertains to business taxation is for those cooperative societies which are involved in manufacturing. Now, the government has proposed a new section 115 BAE, wherein the tax rate would be 15%. So a cooperative society into manufacturing, setting up of a new unit needs to pay 15% tax. If the entity has got any other income other than the manufacturing income, in such a case, the tax rate would be 22% on such income. And if there is any addition in transfer pricing because the transaction between connected person and the cooperative society would get covered under specified domestic transaction. If there is any addition because of the transfer pricing provision in case of the cooperative society, in such a case, the tax rate would be 30%. This was a brief on the business taxation. Before we move ahead to charitable, if anyone has any question, feel free to ask. I'm allowing Debashish Chakrabarti. Debashish, you can unmute yourself and please ask your question. Debashish ji, are you there? I think he's not there. So, okay. So let me now again start the discussion. So I would request Jaspal Bhai will going to share his view on and will be going to discuss the changes proposed in charitable trust. Over to you, Jaspal Bhai.
Thank you, Gaurav bhai. See, similar to what has been brought in the business taxation, the focus of the government has, to a great extent, been on the taxability of the trust over the last some years. And what I've seen is that they are targeting and focusing the taxability of trust in a very, very focused manner. And they are going to be looking into these provisions. And they are wanting to plug all the loopholes that the trusts were so far using in avoiding the taxes. Now, some changes have been brought in since the Finance Act 2021. One such amendment which has been brought in to plug the loophole is that before 2021, the corpus, which is voluntary contributions by anybody for a particular purpose, which forms corpus with the trust, is not included in the total receipts, and it is exempted. Now, once the fund is there and it is utilized, it was allowed to be utilized and spent on the other expenses. And am I audible?
Yes, Jaspal Bhai, you are audible. Please go ahead.
Okay, there was some lag here. Okay, so corpus की जहां पे payment utilize हो रही थी और it was उसके 2021 से पहले जो हम अगर उसकी रीपेमेंट हम कर रहे हैं, now what was after 21 that loophole was plugged and the corpus was not allowed to be spent on the application of money. Now the corpus has been spent, the fund is not there, it has to be restored. Now the amendment has been brought in to say that the corpus, the repayment to the corpus will not be allowed to be used as an application of the fund. And whatever is left in the corpus, it has to be restored within the next 5 years. So this is one loophole which has been plugged via this proposal with the trust. So moving on, another loophole was that the donations, now one, say for example, one trust is receiving 1 lakh rupees as a total receipt. Now, as per section 11, they are required to accumulate 15% of the fund, and they are required to spend 85% as application. Now, among the very elaborate options of application of fund, one was the donations to another similar charitable trust. Now, sir, what happens is कि लोग तो innovative हैं. What they have done is कि एक trust ने multiple chain of trust खोले and they 100 रुपए आए मेरे पास, 85 rupees has been gifted to another trust, donated to another trust of similar nature. अब इस दूसरी ट्रस्ट ने 85 रुपीज में से फिर 15% एक्यूमुलेट करके 85% फिर आगे एक ट्रस्ट को दे दिया. So the government found that by this loophole, the entire money is only excluded and accumulated for non taxability. Now what has been proposed is कि 85% अगर एक ट्रस्ट के पास 100 रुपए आते हैं, 1 लाख रुपए आते हैं, एंड दे हैव donated 85,000 rupees out of it. The donation, the application will be only treated up to 85%. Meaning thereby, sir, uske andar se sirf 72,000 will be allowed as application and the balance will not be carried forward. So this is another loophole which has been proposed to be plugged via these amendments. So moving on to the very next amendment, which is only a rollback of certain exemptions. Now, under section 12A(2), there were 3 provisos. Those provisos have become infructuous by way of the amendment, the bringing in of section 12AB with effect from 1/4/21. So they are omitted. Sir, another aspect to the trusts, another amendment which has been brought in, is that the trusts were required, any trust which has been freshly set up and applying for a deduction under section 12, was required to first file a provisional registration. And then before the commencement of activity, charitable activity, they are required to go in for a regular registration. So sir, yahan pe, this is a welcome provision, this is a welcome proposal. Yahan pe the provisions have been relaxed so as to allow only one registration, and they'll be required to straight away go in for a regular registration once the activity has started. Moving quickly very forward, sir. Another proposal which has been brought in is related to the violation of provisions and the cancellation, the power to cancel the registration by the principal CIT for the violation of provisions of section 12AB. Sir, itni zyada draconian ये proposal है, and an effective proposal as all amendment has also been brought in section 115 TD. So meaning thereby, if this proposal is approved, for the smallest of violations by a trust, the registration is allowed to be cancelled by the principal commissioner. Sir, मान लो आपकी ट्रस्ट जो है 1980 से चली आ रही, सारी कंडीशंस फुलफिल हो रही हैं, एक there are so many conditions, so many conditions which are prescribed under the section 12AB with section 1023. Even the minutest of violations, जैसे कि अगर 139 के अंदर हमने रिटर्न टाइमली नहीं फाइल, the principal commissioner has powers to cancel my registration. What will happen? What will happen is that, number one, my entire income for the year, my entire receipt for the year will become taxable. And in addition to that, section 115 TD becomes applicable, and it says that the current market value of all the assets will be taxable. तो मैंने एग्जांपल लिया था, एक ट्रस्ट बनी, एक मंदिर है, कोई इंस्टीट्यूशन है या एक एजुकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशन, 1980 में बना, उनके एसेट था, उन्होंने उस टाइम पर लैंड खरीदी और लैंड आज 20 करोड़ की हो गई, 10 करोड़ की हो गई, 5 करोड़ की. Via these provisions, the entire amount, the value, the current value of the assets of the trust will become taxable as accredited money, and it will be taxable at MMR. I don't know how these provisions are going to be passed, and these are so very draconian provisions so far as the trusts are concerned, and it is very essential for anybody who is running a trust to fulfill all these conditions. Moving forward, sir, एक और बहुत important amendment आई है related to the filing of the forms. Now again, I'll come back to the very provisions, जो the applicability and the draconian provisions of the misfiling or the non-filing. छोटी technical errors कहाँ हो सकती. सर, हमें जो भी हम एप्लीकेशन है हमारे बस 1 लाख रुपए की डिडक्शन कलेक्शन आई, वी आर रिक्वायर्ड टू स्पेंड 85% in the application. Now, if we do not apply these 85%, we have provisions to inform the assessing officer and through Form 10 that I have not been able to spend this money and I propose to spend this money in the next 5 years complying to the provisions of Section 11(5). Now, sir, ये Form 10 की requirement क्या थी? ये Form 10 मेरे को the due date of filing, this is the due date of filing the return under Section 139. However, I was required to fill in the details of this form in the audit report, which is to be filed 1 month before the filing of the tax return. To overcome this issue, they have now proposed that Form 10 and Form 9A will have to be filed at least 2 months in advance from the date of filing of the audit report. Sir, मेरा एक छोटा सा यहाँ पे सवाल है कि ये Form 10 और Form 9A अलग से क्यों फाइल करना है? एक तरफ हम बात कर रहे हैं कि हम एक कंबाइंड रिटर्न लाने की प्रपोज कर रहे हैं फॉर ऑल दी 7 ITR फॉर्म्स, एंड ऑन द कॉन्ट्ररी वी आर वांटिंग कि हम एक पर्टिकुलर इंफॉर्मेशन अलग से एक फॉर्म में फाइल करें जिसकी ऑडिट रिपोर्ट में कंप्लायंस करें. व्हाई कांट ऑल ऑफ दिस हैपन इन वन रिटर्न और इन एज पार्ट ऑफ द ऑडिट इटसेल्फ? अ declaration, a simple declaration has to be filed. So, meaning thereby the provisions are becoming more and more stringent every day. And I expect these provisions to become more stringent and more frigid in the coming times, especially in the taxation of the trusts, if it is. So then again, another important amendment that हर चीज boil down हो रही है on the denial of the exemption to the trust. What happens is that I was allowed, my return was allowed to be filed under Section 139, meaning thereby all the provisions under Section 139, if I am filing the return, my exemption will be allowed. Now, with the bringing in of the updated return under Section 139(8)(a), the provisions got relaxed. And it was an unintended relaxation which was provided by the government. Again, it has been plugged, sir. And the provisions have been amended to say that the return will have to be filed only under Section 139(1) or 139(4). And 139(8)(a) has been removed from. So, once again, coming back, the filing of the trust, the application of funds of the trust, the accounting of the trust have to be taken care of very, very carefully by the chartered accountants, by the tax advisors. Because once अगर business taxation होगी, जैसे हम अभी बात कर रहे थे section MSMEs की, वहां पे कुछ चीजें non taxable हो जाएंगी and it will be included in the. In the case of a trust, the entire receipt will become taxable. And more so now with the amendment to Section 12 and 115 TD, not only the current year's income, the accumulation of the funds, the growth over the years in the assets of the fund will become taxable. So, Gaurav, this is all I have from the trusts.
Thank you, Jaspal bhai, for your in-depth discussion, I will say, because I heard other speakers also on the charitable trust. I will not name them, and with due respect, the simplicity that you have adopted and the point you have covered, I think it's fabulous. Round of applause to you and also to Deepak bhai for bringing in the case studies in order to explain the repercussions of payments to MSME within the time frame. Now, let me quickly try to cover up some key amendments relating to capital gain. I think the first is the alignment of Section 45(5)(a) and Section 194 IC. So if you read Section 45(5)(a), which is relating to the joint development agreement, it talks about that the consideration would be the stamp duty value plus anything received in cash. Whereas if you go to 194 IC talks about the TDS on the entire consideration. So there was slightly a dispute or a confusion whether 45(5)(a), let's say if I am receiving some amount via check or bank, should I cover it in the consideration? So that dispute, was in the air, and it reached to the ears of the CBDT, and now they have rectified their mistake, and now they have aligned 45(5)(a) along with 194 IC. So very clearly, they are saying now the TDS needs to be deducted on the entire consideration, plus the sale consideration would be the entire consideration and not only the stamp duty plus the cash. The another interesting thing is with regard to electronic gold received. Last year, the government announced the scheme to trade in gold through EGR, electronic gold received. So the question was whether when I'm converting my gold to EGR or vice versa, whether there would be any capital gain on the conversion, and what would be the purchase value or acquisition cost for the EGR. So government now has clarified. They have said that the conversion of gold from gold to EGR or vice versa is a tax transparent transaction or a tax neutral transaction. Means if you have converted your gold into EGR, it is like you are holding a gold. So the cost of acquisition would be the cost of acquisition of a gold. Similarly, let's say if you have bought an EGR and then you have converted it into a gold later on, then again it is a tax neutral or a tax transparent transaction, which means the value of gold or the acquisition cost of gold would be the acquisition cost of EGR. Third important amendment with regard to capital gain is the taxation of market-linked debentures. Now, if you see nowadays, the debenture has started coming up, which are the rate of interest of those debentures is actually driven by some external factors. So there is no fixed rate of interest or there is no some minimum rate of interest plus 100 basis point or a 200 basis point. Rather, the interest is derived from some, let's say, market rate of return or some another asset. So the department is saying, hey, look, they are called market linked debentures are indeed the derivatives. And when you will get a return on it, it will be treated as capital gain. And they have introduced a specific section. That section is 50AA. Now, if there is any receipt against MLD, it will reduce the cost of that MLD. And eventually, when you will sell that MLD, it will be treated as your capital gain. So means if I have invested in some unit, which is market linked debentures, and I'm receiving some interest, that interest will first reduce my cost of acquisition. And whenever I would be selling the MLD, that unit, the gain would be computed based on the consideration minus the cost of acquisition, and cost of acquisition would be reduced by the interest that I have received. These were the amendment relating to the capital gain, which we feel are significant. There are other amendments also, but because of the paucity of time, we would not be taking up those amendments. Now, there is some important change with regard to startups. With regard to startups, see, we all know that if there is a loss, it cannot be carried forward if there is a change of more than 51% of the equity. Wherein the section 79 was amended that if you are a recognized startup under section 80 IAC, in such a case, one would be eligible to carry forward the loss if the shareholder on the day one and the year two are same, irrespective of the equity proportion. So if shareholders are same, one can carry forward the loss, but that loss can be carried forward only for the 7 years. Now it has been from 7, they have extended it to the 10 years. The second change is in 80 IAC. So the benefit was available, till if the company is incorporated till 1st day of April 2023. Now the same has been extended to 1st day of April 2024. Another important change wherein I would like to draw the attention is section 56 to 70. It's a very important change, income from other sources. Now, if you are issuing shares, now 56 2B only covers the resident transactions with the resident. That if you are issuing shares and there is the receipt is more than the fair market value, then only in case of the resident, that transaction is taxable. Now they have included the non-resident as well. Now, if the Indian company is issuing shares to non-resident and the money received or the share capital received is more than the fair market value of the shares, the same would be treated as other income of the Indian company under section 56(2)(7)(b). I think it is when we are wanting that foreign capital, when we want people to invest in India, when we want the global world to invest in India, restricting the price at which the share should be issued, or even if, let's say, not restricting but taking away the money, the foreign company has invested, let's say, $100, and now you wish to take $10, $20 as a tax. I think it is grossly wrong. We must allow, in my view, the foreign capital, whether it's form of the equity or in the form of the loan, freely. If you want to put a restriction, then put restrictions on the sector, but not business as a journal. Then another amendment which we may call under income from other sources is basically in relation to business trust. So we have a real investment trust, real estate investment trust, or infrastructure investment trust, wherein people used to invest, and we all know that these business trusts are actually tax transparent entities, and if they are receiving any dividend, interest, and they are distributing it to their unit holders, it is a tax free. So now these units have actually started giving back the amount of principal to their unit holders, claiming it to be the tax free, or creating a very low rate of tax. Now the same has been brought as a tax. The same would now be taxable by and the same needs to be reduced from the the acquisition cost of the unit. Jaspal bhai, anything, whatever I've spoken, anything to add on this? Deepak ji and Jaspal ji.
There are few more amendments. Some of are very welcome amendments, I would say. I'll just quickly run through it. One is that in the appeals, the Joint Commissioner is proposed to be taking up some part of the appeals, which are, for the last 3 years, we have hardly seen any litigation coming to pending before the CIT appeals coming to a close. So I think this might be a resolution to the issue. And it is proposed that some of the appeals will be transferred to the Joint Commissioner appeals, and it will be disposed of in a quick manner. Of course, the entire process of doing this and transferring these to the Joint Commissioner will be prescribed in due time. So this is one very, very welcome step. Another, I would say that one which we have missed out is the appeals to the tribunal. Last year, with the amendment, some appeals the penalty leviable under section 271 AA(b), AA(c), and AA(d) were the CIT appeals was given the authorization to levy the penalty. So once the CIT appeals is levying the penalty, it cannot be appealed again before us Commissioner appeals. So it has been brought the orders passed by the CIT appeals, the penalty levied by the CIT appeals has been included in section 253, and they'll be directly applicable to the ITAT. Baki bhi kuch amendments hain, but I guess if the time allows, I don't know.
Few more, because there are, Jaspal bhai, some important amendments in the TDS section. So we'd like to cover those TDS. But before we move on to TDS, as far as transfer pricing is concerned, very significant, very small but very significant amendment. See, currently, if one gets a notice for submission of TP study, the time allowed is 30 days. So practically speaking, I have seen many people, they tried to collate documents within those 30 days. Say, to put it in a formal way. I will not say the TP report is not prepared, but yes, to put it in a formal way, they take their time and then they submit the information to the officer. Now, from that 30 days, the time now is only 10 days. The proposal is now, once you receive the notice, within 10 days, you must submit the transfer pricing study or transfer pricing report. Very significant amendment, believe me. Second, again, with regard to transfer pricing is, The if let's say you get late in filing the TP study, the power was given to the officer to allow another 30 days to you. Now it was as per the wish and will of the officer. Now that 30 days and again reduced to 10 days. Now in both the case, now you have 10 days. Once you receive the notice, within 10 days, you must file the TP study. In case you are not able to file the TP study, you may apply for an application for an extension to the officer. An officer can again give you maximum 30 days to file, 10 days to file the TP study. Very significant.
So instead of 30 plus 30, it is now 10 plus 10.
Now it is 10 plus 10. Now we can move on to the TDS provisions, TCS and TDS. And I would request Deepak Bhai to please share his case studies. I will straight away come to case study.
I don't have the case study. I couldn't find the time to actually create case study. And again, you see, these are simple procedural laws. You simply have to deduct the TDS on a particular amount. So for the since we are running short of time, I will take up the most important amendment as far as TDS is concerned, and it is in section 155, right? So till now, what is happening is that if I look at section 155, subsection 14, it says that if let's say while filing your return, you could not claim any TDS, right? Even though subsection 14 talks about the physical era when physical TDS certificates were supposed to be annexed with the TDS return. Let's taking similar example in today's scenario when there are no physical TDS certificates. If let's say during filing of return you couldn't claim any TDS amount, so subsection 14 prescribe a upper limit of 2 years, that within the end of the within the 2 years of the end of the assessment year, you can file an application before your assessing officer to allow additional amount of TDS, provided the income within that TDS must have been disclosed or offered to tax, right? That is a very simple provision. आपका एक साल में कई बार ऐसा होता है, आपने जब रिटर्न फाइल करी तब तक आपके पास वो 26 ईयर्स में वो TDS आ ही नहीं रहा था. लेटर ऑन 1 साल बाद या 6 महीने बाद आपके क्लाइंट ने वो TDS जमा कराया और वो 26 ईयर्स में आ रहा है, या किसी वजह से वो TDS जो है आपके 26 ईयर्स में नहीं आया, इवन दो आपके क्लाइंट ने जमा करा दिया है. हो सकता है रिटर्न फाइलिंग में गलती करी हो. It's quite possible somebody else's PAN has been mentioned and so forth. There could be n number of reasons. Even though आप अगर आपका क्लाइंट बता देता है कि आपका TDS काटा है तो you could have claimed it, right? पर वो 2 साल की लिमिट थी. ये तो होगी बड़ी सिंपल सिचुएशन. दूसरी सिचुएशन ये होती है कि मैंने आपको सर्विसेज तो दी इस साल में. लेट्स से आई हैव गिवन यू सर्विसेज इन फाइनेंशियल ईयर 22-23, बट यू हैव बुक्ड माय इनवॉइसेस इन द फाइनेंशियल ईयर 23-24. So can I claim? And then the TDS is deposited in financial year 23-24, and that amount is also appearing in 26 years of 23-24. Can I claim that amount as a TDS in financial year 22-23? You can't. You can't. Now they have introduced this provision, and this, I believe it's a very welcoming provision. Now what they say is, if let's say the income has been offered in X year, and the TDS on that amount has been deducted in Y year, So if I take an example of financial year 22-23, and the TDS is actually deducted in financial year 23-24, so from within 2 years from the end of the financial year in which that amount was deducted, which is 23-24, so by 31st of March 2026, I can file an application with my AO to allow that amount of TDS which has been deducted and deposited in another financial year. So I believe it's a very welcoming change. और यहाँ पे 2 साल भी दिए हैं फ्रॉम द एंड ऑफ द फाइनेंशियल ईयर, यानी कि 22-23 की बात करें और 23-24 में आपका टैक्स कटा, तो 24-25 और 25-26 आप किसी भी फाइनेंशियल ईयर में अप्लाई कर सकते हैं. एंड आई बिलीव विद दिस, इवन दो इसके रूल्स आएंगे, प्रोसीजर आएगा, ऑब्वियसली प्रोसीजर से बड़ा तो चैलेंज है कि पोर्टल आपका पहले अपडेट होना चाहिए. एंड आई बिलीव आपकी जो इनकम टैक्स की रिटर्न्स हैं उसमें भी चेंज आएगा, बिकॉज आपको स्पेसिफाई करना पड़ेगा कि ये अमाउंट आपने किस फाइनेंशियल ईयर में ऑफर कर रखी है, एंड सो फोर्थ. आई थिंक वो सब चैलेंजेस भी आएंगे, बट ओवरऑल इट्स अ वेलकमिंग चेंज. और मेरे हिसाब से ये चेंज केवल इनको यहाँ नहीं लेके आनी चाहिए थी, इनफैक्ट सबसेक्शन 14 में भी लेके आनी चाहिए। इंस्टेड ऑफ 2 years दे शुड हैव स्पेसिफाइड 4 years, क्योंकि अब आप यहाँ पे भी मुझे 2 साल एक्स्ट्रा दे रहे हो ना, इफेक्टिवली 3 साल मुझे मिल रहे हैं, तो मेरे को भी तो आप वहां पे कम से कम 1 या 2 साल एक्स्ट्रा दे सकते थे। सो दिस इज द वन चेंज। अनदर चेंज एज फार एज टीसीएस इज कंसर्न इज कि जो आपका टूर पैकेज है, राइट, अभी तक उस पर 5% का टीसीएस का प्रोविजन था, अब स्ट्रेट अवे 20% का टीसीएस का प्रोविजन है। बिलीव मी, आप दुबई जा रहे हैं, 1 लाख रुपए का पैकेज है, तो आप पहले 20,000 रुपए एक्स्ट्रा अपनी जेब से निकालें, 1,20,000 आप जमा कराएंगे, 20,000 आपके 26 ईयर्स में आएंगे, फिर आप अपने रिटर्न के थ्रू जाइए, फिर आप प्रूव करना कि भैया 1 लाख रुपए खर्चा था, कैसे कैसे नहीं। एंड आई बिलीव इट्स अ लिटिल हार्श। 20% इज अ वेरी वेरी सब्सटेंशियल अमाउंट। तो ये एक मेजर चेंज है एज फार एज टीसीएस इज कंसर्न।
And Deepak bhai, I must bring the point home कि when you are collecting 20% as TCS, mind it, it is an expense. And most of the people, I will say, in order to catch few Jaspal bhai, what they are doing, they are trying to tax some hardworking people. So if you see the travel, if you're working in some company, earning the salary, paying taxes, and now you are planning to go abroad with your family, and you again need to pay tax, and then you need to wait for a refund. Because see, if you're a salaried employee, your employer is already taking care of your taxes on the salary. They are very well deducting it. So this 20% will going to straight away, going to get blocked. I personally believe, I think the idea behind this 20% is not to catch, the one who are evading the tax, but also somewhere to restrict foreign travel. Because if I read the budget speech, very clearly, I think somewhere the government has mindset to increase the tourism, India tourism. And one way to increase the tourism in India is to restrict your population going abroad. Jaspal bhai.
Gaurav bhai, I don't find any.
मैं एक और चीज ऐड करना चाहूंगा, सॉरी जसपाल जी, सॉरी If I look at the provision of section 206CC, Gaurav, it says if PAN is not furnished, the rate of collection will become twice the rate notified. Higher of the following: minimum 5% and twice the rate of the rate notified. यानी कि अगर आपने पैन नहीं दिया टूर के लिए, चाहे वो 50,000 का ही क्यों ना हो, straight away 40% will become your TCS. Please see the provision.
सर और वो वापस भी नहीं आने.
So obviously जब आपने पैन दिया नहीं तो आप दीजिए ना पैन आप अपना 40%.
See, I will just say one thing here. If we go back in time to see how the TDS was brought in, it was pay as you earn. So where is the earn here? It is an expense. I'm incurring an expense, and just because the machinery is not there with the government to take a check on this, the entire onus has been shifted to the assessee, जो पैसे भी खर्च रहा है और टैक्स भी भर रहा है. So this is very, very harsh, very, very harsh. I was assuming कि 5 से नीचे आएंगे, but they have gone 4 times.
194Q और बाकी प्रोविजन क्यों भूल रहे हैं?
Yeah, exactly.
0.01% ही क्यों ना हो, लेकिन अगर आपने TDS नहीं काटा परचेज ऑफ गुड्स के ऊपर, तो उसका 30% आप डिसअलाउ कर दोगे.
सरकार चाहती क्या है समझ में नहीं आता ना, वो खर्च करने देगी आपको.
टैक्स को छोड़ के इनकम के अलावा भी बहुत सारी चीजों को टैक्स किया जाता है.
नहीं जसपाल भाई, इन्वेस्टमेंट में दे आर नॉट इंटरेस्टेड बिकॉज दे वांट टू ब्रिंग द न्यू regime. Secondly, they don't want you to expense your money because you have TCS, correct? So what you will do with this money, Jaspal? You should stop earning, I'm telling you.
नहीं सर, अर्न करो और सरकार को दे दो.
So do we have any more point to discuss? There is one, with regard to non-filers, TDS and TCS, section 206AB and 206CCA. See, one, I think it's a welcome thing, 206 AB and 206 CCA talks about If you are a non-filer, then there would be a higher TDS and TCS rate. But you could be non-filer because you are not eligible to file the return, or the law does not want you to file it. There is no provision. There is a provision, but it is not compulsion. So now the law has relaxed that provision. So if you are not required to file the return, then you would not be counted as
मैं
non-filer.
कुछ कहना चाहूंगा गौरव, ऐसा नहीं कि ये प्रोविजन पहली बार आया है, ऐसा प्रोविजन कहीं और भी है. इफ वी लुक एट आधार लिंकिंग प्रोविजन, आधार लिंकिंग में लिखा गया अगर आप नॉन रेजिडेंट है तो आपको आधार लिंक कराने की आपको आधार लेने की ही रिक्वायरमेंट नहीं है, तो आधार लिंकिंग की कहां से होगी? सिस्टम को कैसे पता कि सर मैं क्या हूं क्या नहीं हूं? हाउ डू यू आइडेंटिफाई दैट दिस इज द वन? उसका मैकेनिज्म कहाँ है, उसकी मशीनरी कहाँ है? आज आपके कितने ही पैन जो हैं वो इसी बात पे जो है डिसेबल हो सकते हैं कि आप नॉन रेजिडेंट नहीं है. हाउ डू ए सिस्टम आइडेंटिफाई वेदर द पर्सन इज नॉन रेजिडेंट और नॉट? मैं तो जब रिटर्न फाइल करूंगा तभी तो मुझे पता लगेगा कि मैं नॉन रेजिडेंट हूं या रेजिडेंट हूं. ईयर और मेरा जो स्टेटस है बीइंग अ नॉन रेजिडेंट, इट कैन चेंज फ्रॉम ईयर टू ईयर बेसिस. तो सिस्टम कहाँ है, मैकेनिज्म कहाँ है उस चीज को आइडेंटिफाई करने का कि भैया आधार आपका होगा नहीं होगा, डिसेबल होगा, इनेबल होगा, क्या होगा?
Thank you, Deepak bhai. As we are moving towards the closing ceremony, I will say, I am allowing other members also to join us. So I'm adding them as a panelist.
कुछ मेंबर्स का सर जो माइक है वो शोर कर रहा है, आई थिंक मदन लाल जी का है शायद. आई विल सजेस्ट देम टू म्यूट देम.
Please mute your mic, and if you have any question, please unmute yourself and please put your point. Now we are going for open house. Okay. You may unmute yourself and ask your question. Any member? Hello.
हेलो
गौरव, आप मुझे कोर्स बनाइए प्लीज.
हेलो
Gaurav, Naveen Goel this side, if you can hear me.
Yeah, Naveen bhai, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks.
First-
Thanks first of all to that all faculty. It was very helpful and useful session, and I'm attending this session from Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
It's
So Naveen bhai, first of all, very warm welcome and thanks a ton for attending this session from Saudi. And I know you
Right.
faced some problem while registering for the event also, but finally you registered and you are here with us.
Yes.
For
And then
those who do not know, Naveen and me were together in GMCS, and now
Yes.
he's a big man. Over to you, Naveen.
No, thanks. No one is a big man, so we all are the same. And thanks of all. I would say that it was really great eye-opening session, and I have a good learning. So I would request even Gaurav, I'll discuss with you separate.
नवीन जी, we have lost you. I think he has logged out.
So he might join us again. In the meantime, if any other friend has any query. If anyone has any query, they may please unmute themselves. And
सर माय क्वेरी इज ऑन सेक्शन 43B.
Gaurav, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was asking that मार्च अगर 23 का परचेज है और वो परचेज का पेमेंट विद इन 45 डेज पेमेंट टर्म्स में अगर हो रहा है,
मार्च 23 का परचेज है आपका,
मार्च 23 का परचेज है, अप्रैल 23 में पेमेंट हो रहा है, विद इन 45 डेज हो रहा है, विद इन द टर्म्स अलाउड.
मार्च 23 का परचेज तो इंक्लूड ही नहीं है यार.
मार्च 24 सर, मार्च 24 ले दो सर.
मार्च 24, हाँ,
मार्च 24 का परचेज अप्रैल 24 में हो रहा है 30 डेज में, तो उसकी डिडक्शन मार्च
नहीं
मतलब
आप ये
कौन से ईयर में?
गौरव, आपके इनवॉइस में कितना ड्यू डेट था, उसका वो पीरियड कितना?
ड्यू डेट के अंदर है सर, ड्यू डेट के अंदर पेमेंट है.
45 दिन बोल रहे हैं, 45. गौरव मैं समझ गया क्वेश्चन इनका, लेकिन जी गौरव जी,
अलाउड
तो मैं क्वेश्चन समझाऊं, वो क्वेश्चन ये समझाऊं कि मैं सबसे सिंपल कर देता हूं. 1/3/2024 का इनवॉइस है जो इन्होंने बुक किया 1/3/2024 को, उसकी जो ड्यू डेट है वो 45 दिन के अंदर है. एम आई राइट गौरव जी?
जी जी बिल्कुल।
तो 31/3/2024 को स्टेटस क्या हुआ, सॉरी 1 मार्च 2024 को। तो मुझे सिंपली ये देखना है एज पर एमएसएमई एक्ट 31/3/2024 को उसका स्टेटस क्या है, क्या वो ओवरड्यू है या नहीं है। 31/3/2024 को सर वो ओवरड्यू नहीं है, आपको फाइनेंशियल ईयर 23-24 में, आई मीन 23-24 में वो अलाउ हो जाएगा। नाउ लेट्स मूव टू 24-25। अब उसकी ड्यू डेट बनती है जी 15 अप्रैल। आपने 15 अप्रैल को पेमेंट कर दी तो भी आपको 24-25 में डिडक्शन मिल जाएगी। आपने 16 अप्रैल को कर दी तो भी आपको मिल जाएगी, कोई दिक्कत ही नहीं है। आई मीन डिसअलाउ नहीं होगा, एज सिंपल एज दैट, तो कोई दिक्कत नहीं है सर। बट अगर
पर 45 दिन के बाद करी तो डिसअलाउ हो जाएगा ना
सर अब आप एक चीज समझो, वो सेक्शन क्या कहता है, सेक्शन कहता है डिसअलाउ तो करेगा पर अलाउ भी तो कर रहा है आपको जब आप पेमेंट कर दोगे। तो सर अगर उसने 16 तारीख को आपको डिसअलाउ करा तो 16 तारीख को अलाउ भी तो करा आपको।
हाँ, लेकिन ईयर बदल जाएगा।
ईयर बदल सर, फर्क पड़ेगा नहीं ना आपको। आपका एक्चुअल अलाउंस तो 23-24 में कैप्चर हो चुका, तो 24-25 में आगा क्या, आप एक तरफ प्लस करोगे एक तरफ माइनस करोगे, तो नेट इफेक्ट क्या हुआ सर, जीरो ही तो हुआ उसका। गॉट माय पॉइंट।
ठीक है सर।
गौरव, आई थिंक जो थोड़ा कंफ्यूजन है वो ये कि क्या हमें बैक डेट पे जाके रिटर्न को रिवाइज करना पड़ेगा? दैट इज नॉट द केस।
नो 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 नो
Because on 31st March it was allowable.
no.
It only became disallowable in the next year, and again it is becoming allowable because the payment has been made. This is what Deepak Bhai wants to say.
Deepak bhai, I'll just interrupt you here. I think we have to spare this section for the deliberations,
Yes.
because I'm very hopeful that this will be given a complete this will be completely remodeled before this.
अभी एक क्वेश्चन भी आया था कि व्हाट इफ मैंने प्रोविजन बनाया 31 तारीख को, तो मैं उसको आंसर अभी इसलिए नहीं करूंगा, मुझे एक बार पहले एमएसएमई एक्ट तो पढ़ लूं। प्राइमा फेसी आई बिलीव प्रोविजन के ऊपर नहीं लगेगा ये
सर। उसके अलावा I believe this section as it is proposed at the moment, this will never see the light of the day. I'm very hopeful this will be reconsidered, remodeled before the act is passed.
Maybe जो फर्स्ट प्रोवाइजो भी, अगर वो जो फर्स्ट प्रोवाइजो में चेंज करी है कि हम 30 सितंबर से पहले नहीं करते हैं, अगर वो भी वो वापस ले आते हैं, अगर सब क्लॉज एच हटा देते हैं, तो आई बिलीव जो रिगर है इस 43B का वो भी 90% तक खत्म हो जाएगा।
So let's see what
Also on the provision, Deepak Bhai, matlab, let's say if we go ahead with this kind of law, it says any sum payable. So provision is not payable. So
मैंने गौरव तभी तो मैंने प्राइमा फेसी मैंने क्या कहा, प्राइमा फेसी आई बिलीव इट विल नॉट हिट, क्योंकि बात अगेन जैसे आपने कहा पेबल है, तो पेबल कब होगा अगेन उसके भी देखने पड़ेंगे। मान लीजिए मैंने प्रोविजन बनाया, अगले साल उसका इंपैक्ट क्या होगा, सो आई विल नॉट आंसर इट इमीडिएटली, इट अगेन नीड्स टू बी आई मीन थोड़ा इसको और घुसना पड़ेगा, लॉ की लैंग्वेज चेक करनी पड़ेगी, उसका इंप्लीकेशन क्या आएगा। बट प्राइमा फेसी आई बिलीव सिंपली ऑन द प्रोविजन ये नहीं लगे। और अभी तो आप देखिए जो टीडीएस की अगर हम बात करते हैं, गुड्स की बात करते हैं, गुड्स में 2 सर्कुलर आ लिए, आज तक वो क्लैरिफाई नहीं कर पाए लॉ को। आपके जो प्रोविजन पर्क पे सर्कुलर आ लिए, वो लॉ को क्लैरिफाई नहीं करे, जो खुद बना रहे हैं वो लॉ को क्लैरिफाई नहीं कर पाए, तो क्या इस पे सर्कुलर्स नहीं आएंगे? इस पे बहुत सर्कुलर।
I have one more submission to make, wherein I will go with the example of Gaurav, जो Gaurav Agarwal जी ने शेयर किया. So if it is becoming overdue in the next year, in the subsequent year, in such a case, 43B reads the deduction which is otherwise disallowable, which was otherwise allowable, now would be disallowed. So when I have not claimed the deduction, how this section would apply? I think probably you are on a mute, आप mute पे हैं. I think probably
नीचे एक और भी चीज लिखी हुई है, अगेन उसको हम पूरा रीड करेंगे तभी आई थिंक इंटरप्रिटेशन होगी। वो ये भी लिखता है irrespective of the year in which the liability incurred, वो भी एक एस्पेक्ट है उसका।
नहीं, बट वो तो अलाउएबिलिटी की बात करता है ना, that is for the allowability. So unless we treat non-payment as the income in the subsequent year, till then I think it would be a point of,
I think you are giving hints to the government कि आप इसको amend करके ऐसे नहीं इसको ऐसे लेके आओ, and I think that would have been the right way. क्योंकि
so
अगर
now,
हम
Any other question? Any
अभी
other
रूप में
question?
41 लिखा, I don't know why कि 41 he is talking about.
कौन?
Let me see. 41 में कोई amendment थी क्या इससे related?
So Deepak bhai, Jaspal ji, shall we close the session? We are 3 hours plus.
Of course, sir. I guess.
मुझे नहीं लगता कि सेक्शन 41 में अभी ऐसी कोई अमेंडमेंट आई, और ये शायद 41 में मेरे हिसाब से कवर भी नहीं होगा.
Any Deepak bhai, shall we close the discussion?
Please. Unless there are other questions.
Sir,
I think,
discussion इसका नहीं खत्म हो सकता.
And I believe गौरव, हम एक जैसे जितने क्वेश्चंस आ रहे हैं, I believe एक सेशन अलग से हम 43B पे अलग से डेफिनेटली कर सकते हैं. अगले हफ्ते ही कर सकते हैं, 10 दिन में भी कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि अभी 10 दिन में बहुत सारी पोजीशंस क्लियर होंगी.
Correct. I think what we can do, we can release a questionnaire, collect those questions, and maybe, create more answers to those questions. Thanks to everyone, to all the participants, those who have joined, to all the panelists. Somewhere, when the session was in the mid of the timeline, we were able to have almost 250 plus participants in this discussion. And I'm sure we had a great discussion. I am thankful to all my panelists who took their time. Devinder ji, why I'm naming him first, because he was the one whom I called last. I called him at 3 o'clock and he was there at 4. So thanks a ton to Devinder Singh ji, then Jaspal bhai, then Gaurav Gupta ji, and Deepak ji. और मैं तो घर के हैं, तो घर वालों को thanks नहीं करा जाता. So thanks to all the, once again, thanks to all of you. The discussion is available on the YouTube channel. We would be sharing the link. आप सबके email ID मेरे पास है. I would be sharing the link of the YouTube channel with all of you on the email. And certainly I would request Deepak bhai to share his case studies. I would be mailing those case studies, that presentation, to all of you. With these words, once again, thanks a ton to everyone for joining.